Actually, no, I'm not. I'm fine. I guess is the stream up? The stream appears to be up. So once I see this pop up here, we're fine. Let's give it a minute. Okay, we have confirmation that it is working this time, so we are good to go. From the top. A little annoying, but no big deal. So, whenever you're ready, take us away. This is about the time we'd start normally, isn't it, anyways?
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, so take us away whenever you're ready.
Hello, you are listening to Trump Republic Radio. It is January 28th, 2018. I'm your host, Enzo Quesada, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Bobby Hester.
Hello, everyone.
We got quite a lot of stuff to get into, Bobby, this week, and the first thing we need to get into is a follow-up of the main story last week, and that is the shutdown.
Yeah, so the Democrats have finally caved and the government shutdown is ended. America once again is open for business. So the United States United States Senate voted to end a Democrat filibuster, clearing the way for an end to the 3-day government shutdown. The final vote was 81 to 18. The spending bill, however, will only fund the government until February 8th. So we've only got about 3 weeks until everything that happened last week might just happen right again. We might have another government shutdown if they can't get this stuff done. But Senate Democrats will now be able to focus on immigration by itself over the next few weeks as they hope to find a fix for the DACA problem before the March 5th deadline. So we've got a list of the Democrat senators and all the senators really and how they voted. So first off, the only senator that did not vote was John McCain, and that's because he's at home battling cancer. Now, of the people that voted no, which means the people that voted to keep the shutdown going, there were only 2 Republicans that voted no, and that was Rand Paul of Kentucky and Mike Lee of Utah. Now, I can't speak for Mike Lee personally, but Rand Paul said that the reason he voted no is because he wanted to actually have a budget get passed and not a continuing resolution, which is what we've been doing for years and years and years now, essentially. But he didn't want to do any CRs. He wanted an actual budget, so I mean, that makes sense to me, personally. I'm not sure if, how well you feel about that.
I mean, it makes sense. We haven't actually done a real budget in about a decade now, but I don't know. With the way that these things go, I'm fine with using continuing resolutions on this.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. If he wants to take his stand in the dirt on it, that's fine, but I don't care.
Yeah. So, normally that would also bother me because that's, we only have 51 Republican votes in the Senate. With 2 Republicans voting no on something, you're not going to be able to pass anything if the Democrats are against it too. But thankfully, enough of the Democrats did cave. Now, before we get to the Democrats that voted yes, just know that every Democrat that we don't name in the yes column specifically voted no, meaning they voted to keep it shut down. So, first off, the ones who voted yes was every other Republican besides the 3 that we mentioned now. And one of the Democrats that I first want to mention before we talk about the others is Doug Jones from Alabama, our newly elected newest Democrat senator. So he voted yes, which, I mean, we were talking before the show, and it was kind of interesting what we were saying that you were saying what his 538 Trump score is right now.
It's 100.
Yeah, so you're saying he's the most pro-Trump
Technically, right now, with his Senate voting record, he is the most pro-Trump senator in the Senate. Now, that's only because this is like the only thing he's ever voted for.
It's like the only thing.
But I've been seeing Democrats freaking out, and I've been, seeing socialist pages saying, "See, this is what happens when you just support a Democrat. They support Trump." It's just like, so you guys are so stupid. Like, this is pretty much the only vote he's done.
Yeah, which is hilarious. So, but I I skipped ahead of myself really, and I kind of want to go back to the no column real quick. So there was only one Democrat from a state that Trump won that voted no, and that was John Tester from Montana, who's up for re-election this year. And that's interesting because the Democrats that are in the Trump states that are up for re-election, many of them, in fact, most of them, they stand really good chances of losing their re-election bids this year. The last thing that they need is their own base and the Republicans that live in their districts, or their states really, pointing at them saying, you chose to shut down the government to protect the DACA kids over everything else, over American citizens, over, payment for the military and stuff like that. You chose them over us. You don't care about us. You shut down the government. So the ones who voted yes, that is, the ones who voted to open up the government, was...
that are Democrats.
Yeah, they're Democrats. We got Bill Nelson from Florida, Joe Donnelly from Indiana, Debbie Stabenow from Michigan, Claire McCaskill from Missouri, Heidi Heitkamp from North Dakota, Sherrod Brown from Ohio, Bob Casey from Pennsylvania, and Joe Manchin from West Virginia, and Tammy Baldwin from Wisconsin. So those are the 9 of the 10 Democrat senators in states that Trump won, all of which voted, yes, let's go ahead and reopen the government. So there were a couple of other votes, however, in the yes column that really surprised me, and one of those was Chuck Schumer himself, your Senate minority leader. So he was the one who was leading the whole, like, oh, we need to protect the DACA kids. We need to shut down the government if necessary. Yet he was the one who, when the time came, was like, you know what? Let's go ahead and reopen this thing up. This isn't working out very well for us.
Yeah.
And the other Democrat that I wanted to mention was Dick Durbin from Illinois. Now, he's interesting because he said, do you have the quote more?
I don't have the exact quote, but Dick Durbin, the senator from Illinois, said that he has a full-time commitment right at the moment for fighting for the DACA kids, which is funny because if he wants to have any sort of like leverage to help them, he would have just kept the government shut, But no, he voted to end the government shutdown. So interesting how that went. But yeah, the government is fully functioning again. The shutdown only lasted 3 days. Very underwhelming. Didn't turn out to be much in the end anyways. No. But now that we have the government shut down, potentially coming again early here now in February, I think, because I don't think there's going to be a fix for DACA by then.
No, there's not going to be.
I think we'll have another shutdown, which that's fine with me and you. That's perfectly fine. They can do it. It doesn't help their cause. The reason why a lot of these Democrats voted to end the government shutdown is, and we'll get into this later, their polling tanked by doing this. It is not popular whatsoever. Most Democrats don't even want a government shutdown over DACA kids, and we went over polling on that in previous weeks on the program.
Yeah, and there's a couple more votes that I did want to mention. I just want to be, thorough and truthful here. But every other Democrat that did vote yes to reopen the government that was not in a Trump state, meaning, Democrats in blue states that voted yes to reopen it, with the exception of Durbin and Schumer, every single one of them is also up for re-election this year. And some of those are in very, very blue states. Like, for instance, we got...
Angus King.
Yeah. Angus King's an independent, but he caucuses with the
He's
Democrats.
Essentially a Democrat.
But, guys like...
Ben Cardin.
Like Ben Cardin from Maryland. You think a Republican's going to win Senate in Maryland? Of course not. Yet he went ahead and he voted to reauthorize and
Tim Kaine voted to end the government shutdown.
He's up for re-election. So you even have Democrats in blue states realizing this isn't good for my image. This isn't good for my record. This is going to hurt my re-election chances, whether it be in the general, which is doubtful if you're in a really blue state, but especially in the primary, if you've got a strong primary opponent coming up there. So... it's just really interesting there, how things are going, but yeah, so not going well for them. And
let's move on to the Davos stuff, Bobby, that's happened this week.
So President Trump attended the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland this
week. Is like a big meeting of all the elites in the world.
Yeah, it's a collection of world leaders and CEOs, and so Trump told them that America's economy is roaring back, and he called on the gathered business leaders to invest in America's growth. I'm not going to read the entire thing here, but some of the quotes where he said was, "America is roaring back, and now is the time to invest a future of America. We've dramatically cut taxes to make America competitive. We are eliminating burdensome regulations at a record pace," which he said later on the thing. Although he signed the executive order to cut 2 regulations for every new one, we've actually cut 22 regulations for every new one. So that's
very good stuff.
That's very good stuff, absolutely. So, yeah, and he said, we're reforming the bureaucracy to make it lean. So he touted the whole fact that America's created 2.4 million jobs since he's become president. New unemployment claims are the lowest in nearly half a century. African-American unemployment is the lowest rate ever recorded. And it's also one of the lowest, if not the lowest, unemployment rates among Hispanic Americans as well. So that's some really good news. He also went on to talk about just, business in general and bureaucracy and bureaucrats. And there is a couple of quotes I want to read here. So he said, the U.S., like many countries with unelected bureaucrats, we have them all over the place, and they've imposed crushing and anti-business and anti-worker regulations on our citizens with no vote, no legislative debate, and no real accountability. In America, those days are over. So that's, I think, really, really important, and not really anyone's talking about, the whole just unelected bureaucracy problem. And a lot of people do refer to that as like either the deep state or things like that. But there are a lot of unelected bureaucrats that do control our lives, and especially the fact that this was being held in Europe, which, if anyone knows about the European Union, talk about unelected bureaucrats deciding things for people's lives. Granted, they are elected to a degree, but in a way, the representation factor is definitely not there. So his point still stands. To his face, I bet you some of them thought to themselves, he's absolutely right. This is a problem over there. It's a problem here too. Will it change anything? I'm not exactly sure. But he closed... I'm not saying he closed the entire thing, but one of the last things that I wanted to say was he said, quote, "We are creating an environment that attracts capital, invites investment, and rewards production. America is the place to do business. So come to America where you can innovate, create, and build. I believe in America." And that was kind of the entire point of Trump going over there, was to the world.
He said he was cheerleading for America.
Cheerlead for America, sell the America First agenda. Because remember, America First does not mean America only. It means work with the rest of the world and make sure that you're doing things that benefit your own country. Find things that are mutually beneficial to other countries as well. And that's exactly what he wanted to do. So, as far as I know, it was extremely successful. I mean, did you see the videos when he got there?
Oh yeah, it was, the crowds just see him and everyone pulling out their phones, everyone wanting photos with the guy.
And we're not talking regular people. We're talking presidents, prime ministers, billionaire CEOs of multinational corporations.
Yeah, these are powerful people.
Freezing in where they're standing to take out their phone and take pictures of Trump.
They're acting like he's a rock star, and the lines to get in to hear this speech were extensive. People waited hours to hear Trump.
And again, we're talking presidents, prime ministers, CEOs of corporations, literally standing in a crowd of people waiting to get in.
And the fake news has been really pushed for a blunder on it because they, were all excited to tell the story of Trump was booed at Davos. Trump was hated, but he was very, very well received.
Yeah.
The fake news are the ones that weren't well received. It was during the Q&A he was doing, he mentioned the fake news, and there was boos in the audience in regards to the fake news.
And the fake news tried to make it seem like they were booing Trump, yet they were cheering Trump and clapping for every other thing he was saying, except for the fake news. That's when they booed, because they were booing the fake news. They weren't booing him.
So yeah, they've had a really hard time this week trying to spin it. I know CNN still has tried to.
Oh, they're probably still doing it as we're recording this right now.
Hasn't been working out for them so well. But yeah, it was kind of the speech that I expected him to give. Not anything we haven't really heard before, but it went well and he did a good job. So good stuff on that. Want to move on to some FBI stuff, Bobby?
Let's do it. So there have been more FBI texts that have been released. The Justice Department has turned over additional text messages involving FBI agent Peter Strzok, who was removed from Robert Mueller's investigation team following the discovery of derogatory comments made about President Trump and his mistress and former co-worker on the Mueller team, Lisa Page. The Department of Justice also said that its record of messages sent to and from Peter Strzok were incomplete because the FBI, for technical reasons, has been unable to preserve and retrieve about 5 months' worth of communications. The 5-month period was between December 14th, 2016 and May 17th, 2017, which was the exact same day that Mueller was appointed as special counsel. So that doesn't seem at all suspicious to me, does it?
No, not whatsoever.
Not suspicious at all. But the technical reasons the FBI gave were misconfiguration issues related to rollouts, provisioning, and software upgrades that conflicted with the FBI's collection capabilities. The FBI also stated that roughly 10% of its 35,000 employees have also been affected by the glitch. So we're talking probably roughly 3,500 FBI employees that also might have had, lost text messages due to whatever that problem that they had with their software. That's not good, because who knows how many other people may be involved in this sort of stuff that we may need to see that information later on.
Yeah.
But the original release texts, there's about 50,000 of them, they were from the spring and summer of 2016, and they discussed the investigation into Hillary Clinton's private email server. Now, in one of the texts, Strzok and Page referenced switching to iMessage, suggesting that they moved their private conversations from their government-issued Samsung phones over to private Apple ones.
Time to hide some stuff, huh?
Right. And Senator Ron Johnson, a Republican from Wisconsin, who's also the chairman of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, he wrote a letter to FBI Director Christopher Wray asking him if the FBI had, quote, conducted searches of Mr. Strzok and Mrs. Page's non-FBI issued communications devices or accounts to determine whether federal records exist on those non-official accounts. However, Department of Justice Inspector General Michael Horowitz said his office has located the missing texts as of Friday, which makes sense because, we've been talking about the whole NSA spying scandal for years now. We know they're collecting every text message that gets sent. We know they're collecting every email that gets sent. We know that they're probably listening in on phone calls and stuff, or at least knowing who you're calling, how long the calls last, all that sort of stuff.
If they want to know, they can access it.
If they want to know, they can access it. They've got that information. So there's no reason that when they said, we can't find it because of some glitch, we know that those records exist. We know that they have it. And they have it. I mean, they've said, we have them. Earlier in the week, they were lost, but now they've been found, and we're going to go through them. So, of note, however, is one text that was discovered where Strzok tells Page regarding the Russia probe, quote, you and I both know the odds are nothing. If I thought it was likely, I'd be there, no question. I hesitate in part because of my gut sense and concern there's no big there. However, he joined the probe anyways. So you literally have Strzok sitting there telling Page, saying, the whole Russia collusion narrative, I really doubt there's anything there. I don't think there's anything there at all. But you know what? I'm going to join it anyways.
But, it's not that they have ulterior motives that we know about, Bobby.
And one of the other things that come out is this whole secret society talk.
Yeah, we've seen that between the two, there has been talk of a secret society, which includes Andrew McCabe. So why... We don't know a whole lot about it, but why is there a secret society in the FBI to begin with?
Yeah.
That, is obviously unaccountable to the American public.
And, I was talking to you before the show about the whole secret society thing. I doubt when we hear the word, secret society, we tend to think of, guys in, cloaks meeting around rooms with candles and stuff like that. But the whole, secret society thing is probably just a group of a couple, maybe a dozen or so people at the FBI that just kind of get together on their own and investigate things that they want. Because we're talking...
An inner circle that is okay with doing things that aren't okay by the standard of the law. But because they're in an inner circle, no one's going to get in trouble. And that's what I assume.
Yeah, and the reason why this is also a big deal is we're talking about people that have high-level security clearance, many of which are people that also have power in general, whether it be at the FBI or anything really, and yet their entire group, secret society, whatever, that group of people that we're referring to is working on its own to try to actively bring down the President of the United States.
Which, you look at the stuff between Lisa Page and Peter Strzok, the text that we already have, and, the revealed anti-Trump bias, they talk about how they have the means of stopping Trump and doing what's necessary. And these are the people part of a secret society in the FBI.
Yeah.
This is we don't know everything at the moment. We're still finding things out, but none of this stuff looks good.
No. So,
Do you want me to go into the Hillary stuff?
Yeah, go right ahead.
So we've got some new release texts that point to some prejudicing of the Hillary investigation. Remember, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page were also part of the Hillary investigation of her email server back in the summer of 2016. So in the newly released text from Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley of Iowa, Page warned Strzok that Clinton, quote, might be our next president in a February 25th, 2016 exchange. Quote, the last thing you need is going in there loaded for bear, Page continued. Quote, you think she's going to remember or care that it was more DOJ than FBI? So here they're talking about we need to treat Clinton in a way that won't have her wrath against them when she becomes president, openly prejudicing the case back in February. But, as we know now, Clinton didn't become president, and, if Clinton did become president, we wouldn't be finding out about this stuff.
No.
This stuff probably would have gotten even worse.
And it makes you also wonder what more is out there that we don't know about.
There has to be a lot more.
And are we just scratching the surface, or have we already reached the bottom of the barrel? We don't really know. I mean,
I think we're still at the surface.
I think we've just barely scratched the surface. I mean, it seems like, especially, we're going to get to the whole, release the memo thing here in a bit, but, the entire Obama presidency, heck, even back into the late years of the Bush presidency, when people really started to get skeptical about this stuff, we knew that these people are corrupt. And we knew they did things that are definitely illegal, for sure immoral. We just didn't really have ways to prove it because they were very good at covering their tracks. Well, now those tracks are being uncovered. And it appears that, because of the fact that they were banking so hard on Clinton winning in 2016, knowing that if she wins, this stuff is never going to get discovered. But now Trump won. And, they're pooping in their pants because they're getting discovered, and the stuff is coming out. The memo is probably going to get released. Their texts have been found. That stuff's being made public knowledge. These people aren't going to get away with anything.
There's nowhere to run.
It's only a matter of time before, charges start being filed at this point.
So it's really great stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say, especially if the memo gets released and that gets investigated more. But like I said, we're going to get to that more in the
Let's go into this infrastructure plan thing.
Yeah, so Trump announced his $1.7 trillion infrastructure plan. During a meeting of roughly 100 mayors from different U.S. cities, President Trump announced the price tag of his $1.7 trillion for his infrastructure plan. The mayors applauded loudly and cheered, to which Trump replied, "Oh, you like that? I can tell we have mayors in the room. Only mayors would be that excited." He plans to further address his infrastructure plan and publicly reveal the details during his upcoming State of the Union speech on Tuesday, January 30th.
So we'll know in a couple days from now the more details on it, but, during the campaign, Trump ran on a $1 trillion infrastructure plan, so it is surprising to see now it's a proposed $1.7 trillion infrastructure plan, which is a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of money.
A lot.
And let's be honest, a good portion of the infrastructure, bill is going to be pork barrel spending stuff. That's why the mayors are so excited.
Yeah, I mean,
it's stuff that directly goes to their constituents. Helps them out.
Yeah, and I was telling you before the show, Trump talked about how he wanted to bring more broadband internet access to rural areas that don't have it right now, which is great. I'm not against that at all. But you're absolutely right. The vast majority of this is going to be pork barrel spending, and I think you had mentioned that it's probably going to benefit some people, screw over some other people. But in terms of the mayors of these big cities, yeah, they understand when the government says we're spending money on infrastructure, that means your cities are going to get a lot of federal funding, and that's why they're excited.
Yeah, but it's not the worst way that we could spend federal dollars on infrastructure. There are issues with infrastructure in this country. It is something that is supported on both sides very thoroughly because it's popular amongst voters.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm okay with seeing this stuff happen. 1.7 seems like a lot, but I don't know. We'll have to see the details in the next couple days. But when this bill does like get released to the House or the Senate, I expect this to pass, and it should be a pretty good victory for Trump in the long term. That should reflect well on him.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, infrastructure is probably one of the few things that you're going to have very, very broad bipartisan support.
Especially amongst Democrats, they support it even stronger than Republicans.
Yeah, I mean, I've been going through the primary database here and looking at all the different people running in the Democrat primary, and almost every single one of them, of the ones who do mention like infrastructure type spending, they're all very pro infrastructure spending. They want more of it. So yeah, if that's any indication of the rest of the country, then this shouldn't be any problem.
No. But yeah, we'll give you the details when they come out. Let's move on to some economic stuff, Bobby.
Yeah, so the first thing that we have up in economics is there are even more companies that are giving bonuses due to tax reform. First off, we have J.P. Morgan announced that they will be investing $20 billion by building 400 new branches and giving pay hikes to 22,000 workers because of tax reform. Disney announced that they will be giving all 125,000 workers a $1,000 bonus and will be investing $50 million into a new employee education program because of tax reform. Starbucks says that they'll be increasing pay for 150,000 U.S. workers, but they didn't specify an exact amount. All we know is they will be receiving more pay. Home Depot, they said that they will be giving all hourly employees a minimum of $200 and a maximum of $1,000 based on how long they've been working at the company. And finally, FedEx announced that they will be committed to raising worker pay by $200 million and will also be giving 2018 salary increases 6 months early because of tax reform. So, really good news. That's even more people that are going to be getting bonuses, even more companies that are jumping on the train right now. So, for all the people that said tax reform isn't a good idea, for all the people that thought that, this wouldn't work, we talked about the fact that this type of stuff would happen on the show.
Yeah, we
talked about just how impactful tax reform is and will be on the American economy and just how historic it truly is. I mean, do you think any of this would have happened if tax reform didn't happen? Of course not. It's happening because of tax reform.
And you need to keep in mind, this is money they're giving out before they've even gotten their tax reform money back. This is money they're already willing to give out. Once they get their money back, all these companies, you're going to see even more of these bonuses coming out, and you're going to see more money invested in their companies.
Yeah. And so, that's continuing to be really good news. Like we said, would this have happened if Clinton was president? Absolutely not. You would have had probably higher taxes on corporations or individuals, if anything. So that's some really good news. And
let's go into some GDP stuff, Bobby.
Yeah, so we got some GDP numbers for the fourth quarter, and I got to bring up just a couple pictures here. So yeah, we're good. GDP growth for the fourth quarter slowed to 2.6%, which is much less than expected. The New York Federal Reserve, if you remember, we talked about this in the show a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago. They estimated that the fourth quarter GDP would reach about 4% based on strong manufacturing data near the end of the year. The slowdown is being blamed on a widening trade deficit and lower inventories during the holiday season. However, despite the low number, consumer spending rose by 3.8%, which is the largest quarterly increase in 2 years. Now, I kind of wanted to say something about the fact that it was only 2.6, which is a lot less than what people expected it to be. Love him or hate him, I still follow Bill Mitchell on Twitter, and occasionally he has some really, really good analysis about stuff. And he had 2 tweets here that I'm going to read. His first says, the fourth quarter import deduction to GDP, which is essentially what happens is you subtract numbers from your GDP number based on other data. Goods was minus 1.91%, services minus 0.05%, is the biggest deduction ever and potentially, likely, massively overestimated. He also tweeted and he said, if you just use import history as a guide, the actual fourth quarter GDP growth will end up at least a full 1% higher. That would put the actual result around 3.6%, which is exactly the landscape everyone thought it would be. So, he's essentially saying the reason why it's only 2.6 instead of it being higher is because these numbers that they deduct are just massively being deducted more so than they ever are before. And that a couple weeks from now, when we get the revised numbers, which we always get revised numbers out, and it seems like they're always revised higher, it's possible we could easily see three, definitely over 3%, but maybe 3.3, 3.4% GDP growth for the fourth quarter,
which is very strong.
It is very strong. Heck, it could even be 3.6.
Not to say 2.6 is bad.
No,
really.
2.6 is great.
I mean,
anything
better than what Obama was doing.
Yeah, I was going to say anything above 2 is considered good. 3 is,
what you aim
fantastic.
for, though.
Yeah. So that's some, maybe good news, maybe bad news, but it's more of those things where it's like, wait a couple weeks for the data to come out, and then we'll get back to you. So for now, it's looking like it's going to be pretty good.
The economy is still in great shape.
Yeah.
Let's move on to some immigration stuff, Bobby. So the first thing we want to go into is what Durbin has to say about his Gang of Six bill.
Yeah. So Durbin has declared his Gang of Six bill dead. Illinois Senator Dick Durbin's Gang of Six amnesty bill was presented to President Trump via fellow Gang of Six member and co-author Senator Lindsey Graham, a Republican from South Carolina. Trump immediately rejected it, causing Durbin and other Democrat senators to want to develop an amnesty plan that would satisfy their pro-amnesty base. Durbin said that they plan on having another bill developed by either the first or second week of February. The White House said that the Gang of Six bill would have provided either work permits or citizenship for roughly 8 million illegal aliens. Yeah. The failure of Durbin's bill will likely cause many Democrats to think twice about getting involved in future DACA negotiations out of fear it will hurt their chances at re-election this year. This could already be seen with the vote to end the government shutdown, where 9 of the 10 Democrats in states Trump won voted yes, which we talked about that earlier on the show already. So, not looking good for the Democrats in their amnesty bills.
Because this is the only bill that they have working on.
Yeah, this was the Democrat Senate bill for amnesty.
Because they're not working on anything right now.
And, they say they want to have it developed by the first or second week of February. The next potential government shutdown, if it happens, will happen February 8th. That's the end of the first week of February, start of the second week. That's the exact same time frame they're looking at. So they're probably going to want to have this thing developed before the government shutdown. Could potentially happen again, which I expect it to happen then. But, what more can you change? The only way that you're going to get anything approved by the White House is if you give into the White House's demands. And we've already seen that Democrats don't want to do that.
And they know what these demands are. They're just plain stupid on this. These demands have, through, Stephen Miller's immigration demand checklist, have been out and available for them for months.
Yeah, and that's one more thing I want to read here. While speaking on the Senate floor, Durbin proved that he's either also an idiot, a liar, or both, because despite Trump's immigration demands, like you said, ending chain migration, ending the diversity visa lottery, etc., Durbin said, quote, "I don't know the position of the president right now. I don't know where he stands. We haven't heard from him." So he's flat out lying on the Senate floor, unless he's just a complete idiot and just doesn't pay attention, which honestly wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, so the Gang of Six amnesty bill, that's totally dead.
Do you want me to go into the Schumer stuff now?
Go right ahead.
So Chuck Schumer, Senate Minority Leader, has revoked his offer to President Trump of $1.6 billion to fund the border wall. Schumer's aides have told reporters that the original offer was only made to try and avoid the government shutdown. Schumer stated, quote, "The thought was that we could come to an agreement that afternoon. The president would announce his support, and the Senate and the House would get it done, and it would be on the president's desk. He didn't do that, so we're going to have to start on a new basis, and so the wall offer is off the table."
And $1.6 billion to fund the wall is
nothing.
Nothing. That was much, much less than what anyone else was expecting.
That's an insult. We can, just through like diverting DHS funding and discretionary funding, we could get more than $1.6 billion for the wall. And Schumer knows this.
Yeah.
It's an insult to say that he's willing to work on the wall when he'd give barely anything.
And it seems like Democrats have really come around a lot. Like, Representative Gutierrez, who is from Illinois, he's in the Chicago area.
He's resigning, or he's not
He's
running.
he's not seeking re-election,
2018.
but even then, he's come around and he's even saying, he's like, fine, you want the wall, we'll give you the wall.
And he's the most hard-line pro-amnesty representative they have in the House.
Yeah, Democrats know the wall is coming. The wall is going to get built. We're going to get the funding for the wall. At this point, for Schumer to revoke his offer for the wall, it's a joke. It really is.
Because to get the money for the wall, we don't have to make a deal with you.
No, we don't.
If you want these DACA kids, you better be willing to compromise on some stuff, because we are the ones in position to accept or reject deals. It's not you guys.
And as long as we get the Republican votes on our side, we don't need them.
Yeah.
I mean, when it comes to continuing resolutions, maybe, but even then, we saw what happened last time. The Democrats want to shut down the government over DACA kids, then fine, go right ahead. It's just only going to hurt you even further.
Let's move on, though, to another thing related to Schumer as well as other senators.
Yeah, go right ahead.
And that is, ever since the government has been, not shut down anymore, there has been some illegal alien activists protesting, and one individual who we just talked about now, Chuck Schumer, they were protesting outside his house. They're protesting in his front yard.
Yeah, literally like standing on the grass.
Which, it was like hundreds of them. I was watching the live stream of it for a little bit. It was ridiculous. They are extremely angry that they stopped the government shutdown. And, it wasn't only limited to Schumer. They also invaded Rubio's office and Senator Tillis's office, demanding amnesty.
Yeah, and it's hilarious being in the ones that went into Senator Tom Tillis's office, which is hilarious because I kind of want to read what one of the illegal alien activists shouted at him. So she said, "I see no leadership in this office. This office is supposed to protect me. This office is supposed to make me feel like home. I've already talked to Tom Tillis in person, and he looked me in the face and told me that we have until March 5th. He told me to my face that undocumented youth are not immigrants, are not a priority. I'm not a priority. Fuck this conservative. Fuck this person." So, yeah, these people they're going completely insane right now, and it's hilarious to watch.
She says, your job is to protect me. You're not even a constituent of his.
No, you're not.
You can't even vote for him. He's not someone you serve.
Yeah.
You're not an American citizen. These people, but they can't think outside of themselves, which is why they put on these displays that are so stupid, which don't convince people to their side. We got some other, protests that they did, and you want to go into that, Bobby?
Yeah, so...
Because it doesn't help their case.
No, this one definitely doesn't help their case. So there was a group of about 15 to 20-ish or so illegal aliens that blocked the entrance to Disneyland in California. With signs that said things like, "Live without fear," "Clean Dream Act now," "No dream, no deal." They blocked the entrance to Disneyland, and then they got pushed out of the way by, police. Then they started blocking buses from entering the park. So, imagine even if you're a liberal who's in favor of amnesty, and you're just trying to, have a nice day and take your family to Disneyland, and you get there, and there's these, illegal aliens blocking the entrance to the park. You can't get in. Blocking a bus from getting in if you're on the bus. You're not going to have any sympathy for those people at all. It's kind of like when Black Lives Matter would block the entrance to highway, or, block highways and stuff like that. It's you're not making anyone go to your side. All you're making people do is resent you.
Yeah, you're just alienating
You're just going to want people to say, even if you are in favor of, a pathway to citizenship, you don't care about those people. You're like, get out of my way, get out of here. If anything, they might start to think, okay, if this is the behavior of the people that are, wanting amnesty, why should I let them in? They don't care about America. All they care about is themselves. They don't want to benefit America. They want America to benefit them. You think any of them are going to go back and actually listen to John F. Kennedy's speech when he said, "Ask not what, what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. These people aren't asking what they can do for our country. They're asking what our country can do for them. And they're not even citizens. They don't even belong here. They're not our people. They deserve to go back, every last one of them, no matter where they came from, how long they've been here, how old they are. They need to be sent home.
Yeah, and I don't have the exact quote on this, but I do know essentially what because they interviewed the activist leading the Disneyland protest.
Yeah.
And they said Disneyland is the place where dreams come true, and because our dreams can't come true, we have to shut this down.
Yeah.
Of stuff of that sort. The thing is, it's like, why do we even have to care about your dreams? We all have dreams of our own.
Yeah.
Every single one of us. Why does this matter to us whatsoever? They can't explain to you why this matters to us. Because all they think about is themselves.
Yeah. And so, there was one other place that they protested, and keep in mind, the group that went into Rubio's office was the same people that went into Tillis's office, and the same people also, while they were in the Senate building, they held a mock funeral in the Senate rotunda for, victims of immigrants that have died or something because they're not able to get amnesty, which is hilarious because these people don't belong here and they're just wasting their time. They're wasting our time, really. And frankly, I don't care about
it's
these
like
people.
You're not even American citizens. You don't have a right to free speech. You don't have a right to protest in our country, let alone in our goddamn Capitol building. Just what's going on?
Yeah.
It's crazy stuff. With that said, let's go into probably the best poll that we've ever seen.
Yeah, there was a poll that was released, and before we actually say the data of it, so many people were even shocked that this was even real, and the fact that it is amazing. So
and it scares them.
It does. There's a new Harvard-Harris poll that shows 79% of American voters say, quote, immigration priority for those coming to the U.S. should be based on a person's ability to contribute to America as opposed to their as measured by their education and skills, and not based on a person having relatives in the U.S. Meaning, 79% of American voters favor merit-based immigration over chain migration. And you're right, that is scaring them all. Because the poll also found that 85% of blacks favor merit-based immigration over chain migration. 72% of Democrats and former Clinton voters favor merit-based immigration over chain migration. And in general, 80% of Americans also favor curbing legal immigration levels. Take in less immigrants per year is what that means.
We're not even talking about illegal. We're talking about legal.
And that poll, those numbers, that's detrimental to the left.
Because people are going to be voting with these attitudes. Yeah. And as the leftists, the Democrat platform come these midterms, it's pretty much going to be open borders and amnesty. They're going left. The general public is moving right on their immigration views. Even Democrats. 72% of Democrats. So they don't even appeal to their own constituents.
They are appealing to, say that 70, they're appealing to less than 1/3 of their base, which, I hate to say
that's not a winning strategy.
That part of their base is the loudest, that's for sure. It's the one that's actually, driving the narrative. Especially the progressive liberals that you see on Twitter and stuff, they're the ones who make up that 30%. Whereas I hate to say the whole silent majority thing, but it is true. The silent majority, in fact, the vast majority, 80% of Americans are yeah, we should be switching to this other thing. And you're right, they're going to vote like that. And in the midterms, they're going to vote like that. And if the Democrats shut down the government again, saying shutting down the government to save the DACA kids over, funding the government, that 80% number is only going to get even higher. And, I mentioned this to you before the program. There was a time where I was against Trump. Now, you've been for Trump the entire time, so you get 2 thumbs up for that. But there's a time where I was against Trump. And during the primaries, during one of the Republican debates, he was saying, no one was talking about immigration before me. And I thought to myself, are you serious? People have been talking about immigration for years. But you know what? He's absolutely right. No one was talking about merit-based immigration. No one was talking about chain migration. No one was talking about the diversity visa lottery. No one's talking about any of that stuff. In fact, most people, vast majority didn't even know what any of that stuff was. But now that it's become the forefront issue for the last, I don't know, 6 months or so, and it's going to be continuing it, and it's even being pushed more and more into the mainstream, those ideas, people are realizing, wait a minute, why are we bringing people in from shithole countries? Why are we letting people bring virtually unlimited amounts of family members over to this country that aren't contributing? Then they start looking at welfare usage rates and all that sort of stuff, crime statistics, whatnot. They're like, wait a minute, this is a big deal. This is a big issue. Why are we allowing this to happen? And you're seeing the answers here. Now, I guess the next thing we could talk about here before we go to the next story is, the fact that Trump's got his State of the Union address Tuesday night. And I think it was Nancy Pelosi said that she wants to fill the peanut gallery with illegal immigrant activists. Now, it would be hilarious if Trump just had those people arrested and deported on live television. That would be great. But, Trump's going to look at them. He's going to look directly at the Democrats that are all sitting there. Now, there have been quite a few Democrats that have said that they're going to boycott the State of the Union, which go right ahead. That's just more empty seats that we can fill with our guys. But, he's going to look directly at the Democrats that are sitting there not clapping for any word he says, and he's going to say, hey, you think you're putting on some big stand right now? You think that you're the moral high ground? 80% of Americans disagree with what you stand for. Your policies right now are extremely unpopular. You're going to lose seats if you keep trying this.
You don't speak for America when it comes to immigration. I do.
Yeah.
And it's demonstrably true.
And, this, it kind of goes forward to 2020 as well. If the left keeps this up, it's increasingly, I think a lot of Democrats realize this, that the blue wave that they hope for November this year, it's not coming. I mean, we've got polls later when we get to the elections portion.
There is one thing that we need to state before we move on, though, which we don't have an article on, but I mean, this has been out there. Is this week Trump proposed his compromise that he wanted to do, where he'd have 1.8 million illegal aliens get a pathway to citizenship 10 to 12 years down the line in exchange for $25 billion for a wall, an end to change migration, an end to the diversity visa program, in exchange, and then other reforms for immigration. Very, very good stuff all across the board. And I know that scared a lot of people. And, personally, the idea of giving these illegal aliens that have come here illegally anything is kind of reprehensible.
Yeah, I don't want to give even one person any form of amnesty at all.
But, you look at what happened because, Trump gave them even more illegals to amnesty, and the response to the Democrats have been, this is a white supremacist proposal that you're putting out. Pelosi said, this is just Trump's agenda to make America white again. Okay, you look at just the long term on this, chain migration, that's the big issue that they're not willing to budge on whatsoever. Over 9 million people have immigrated to the U.S. because of chain migration since 2005. It is the biggest factor in bringing immigrants here. On average, we're bringing about 500,000 people a year through chain migration. If you give the 1.8 million people the potential for citizenship down the line, just in 4 years, you'd have, eliminated, there'd be less immigrants here than the ones that you let be here. And this would continue down the line. And you need to keep in mind, and the Democrats know this, they're very low time preference on it. A lot of these people wouldn't actually be eligible for the citizenship 10 to 12 years down the line. You can be disqualified for having committed crimes. Say you had a bunch of DUIs, you don't get to have it. Say you've been on welfare a lot, which we know the legal immigrant usage of welfare is extremely high in this country, much higher than the native population. That will disqualify you from getting citizenship. So a lot of these people, if you gave them this, they disqualify themselves.
Yeah.
So it would actually be a slower number than you'd think. And even me, someone that doesn't want to give an amnesty, I'd be willing to do this deal. I would personally be down for it. And the Democrats are willing to let the DACA kids be deported to keep chain migration, because in the long term, that's less immigrants for them.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. He has them outmaneuvered because he's willing to give amnesty, and they're not willing to make any sort of compromise. They're outmaneuvered on it, and they haven't had to compromise on anything in a very long time, but there's finally someone strong in the White House that's pushing them, and they're losing their mind, and they're struggling at every turn now. Okay, they flopped the government shutdown. They're pulling tanks when they do any of this stuff, but they know that they can't, avoid doing this stuff because it hurts their future electorally. And this is stuff that they've stated themselves before. So, I don't know. I like the position that we're in. We're advocating from a place of power. And,
it's not something Republicans are used to doing.
No. But, I don't know. These people have to satisfy us, not them.
Yeah.
Let's move on to the next thing that we have, though.
So the next thing up is the Department of Justice is demanding proof that sanctuary cities are cooperating with authorities. The Justice Department on Wednesday threatened to subpoena 23 jurisdictions if they don't turn over information about their sanctuary policies. The letters state that those who fail to respond will be subject to a DOJ subpoena. If the jurisdictions can't prove that they're complying with federal law, then the DOJ may demand some of their 2016 federal funding back. Some mayors, including New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio and Denver Mayor Michael Hancock, boycotted the meeting with President Trump at the White House over the move. That was the same meeting where he talked about his infrastructure plan. So those guys weren't there. Joining them was New Orleans Mayor Mitch Landrieu, who serves as the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Bill de Blasio tweeted, quote, "I will not be attending today's meeting at the White House after Trump's Department of Justice decided to renew their racist assault on our immigrant communities. It doesn't make us safer, and it violates America's core values." We also have a list of the jurisdictions, but we can go to that here in a second. You want to respond to what Mr. Blasio tweeted there?
Our core values. Is our core value protecting illegal aliens?
To the left, it is.
Yeah, to the left, and I forget who said this week. They see that enforcing the laws on the books right now is racist.
Yeah.
It is Nazi level to follow the law at this point. And it's just like, who do you serve? Do you serve the American people? Do you want to protect the American people? Or are you protecting these people that aren't supposed to be here whatsoever?
And, here's part of that problem. When you look at that poll, the 80% something of Americans, where does that 20% lie? A lot of that 20% is in states like California and New York, where they might make up the majority of the voters. So in a way, they are doing what their constituents want. Problem is, their constituents compared to the constituents of the rest of America is completely different, which is what I've been saying on the show forever. Things cannot continue with people living under the same system of government, okay? You have to change something because this cannot continue. Thankfully, things are working out well for our side right now. But I've got the list of the jurisdictions that received the letters, so I'll go quickly through this here real quick. So first off, the state of California in general, the entire state.
Because it's a sanctuary state.
Yeah. Monterey County, California, Sacramento County, California, Sonoma County, California, the city and county of San Francisco, California, Berkeley, California, Los Angeles, California, Fremont, California, Watsonville, California, the city and county of Denver, Colorado, West Palm Beach, Florida, the state of Illinois, Cook County, Illinois, Chicago, Illinois, Louisville, Kentucky, Lawrence, Massachusetts, Jackson, Mississippi, Bernalillo County, New Mexico, Albany, New York City, New York, the state of Oregon, Burlington, Vermont, and King County, Washington. So those are the 23 jurisdictions that just received letters, and if they don't respond to prove that they're following what the Department of Justice is telling them to do, they're going to get a subpoena, which means those people might actually
be arrested. Which is not fun.
Remember, last week on the show, we talked about how the DOJ was looking to start arresting leaders of sanctuary cities. This is how they're doing it. They're sending letters saying, I want you to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you are complying with federal policies. If not, here's a pair of handcuffs.
Yeah, I'm surprised that there isn't any Texan cities on the list.
No, there's.
I would have wanted at least like Austin.
And it's not even entirely like blue states either. I mean, Jackson, Mississippi, Louisville, Kentucky, blue cities and red states granted, they are blue cities and red states, but they're still red states. So we're not talking entirely blue areas here.
Yeah.
But I mean, every single one of those places, you look up every single county that they said, it went blue. You look up every state they listed, it went blue. You look up the actual city results from every city listed, it went blue. So, granted, I mean, it's cities. Cities go blue anyway, so you can't really, take two and two together from that.
But yeah, we are in the right here. Look at the Constitution, the Supremacy Clause, the United States. Federal government sets the immigration policy. Individual cities don't. You have to fall in line with what the federal government says. If you don't want to fall in line, okay, we're just gonna subpoena you. We're gonna take you to court, and we're gonna throw you in jail.
Yeah,
and we're gonna take away your funding.
Which, frankly, if they won't negotiate with anything else, I'm fine with just doing
great stuff.
Exactly
though. Let's move on to
the next
another
story.
thing on politicians that don't serve their own citizens, and their constituency now is illegal aliens.
Exactly.
And that is some stuff Cuomo is up to in New York.
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo wants to give illegal aliens who are on the DACA program free college at all state universities. He wants nearly $170 billion from the state budget to make the Excelsior Scholarship available to students on the DACA program, as opposed to only in-state residents like how it is right now. The scholarship gives students free tuition at any New York State public college if their families make $125,000 or less, regardless of grade point average or standardized test scores. The only condition of the program is that students remain in the state for, quote, the number of years equal to the equal to the reward received to keep the scholarship, meaning that students who receive free tuition must live and work in the state or pay the money back. Cuomo also announced another policy that would extend benefits to DACA recipients this week. He announced Tuesday that DACA recipients would receive Medicaid coverage in the state regardless of federal government action.
This is like one of the most infuriating and sickening things that I've seen in quite a while, because it's just like you could be giving this, and the Democrats are always like, oh, what about the kids? What about the kids? Education. Right now, he's not even thinking about education for Americans.
No.
He's just thinking about giving education, free college, to foreigners. People that can't vote, that aren't supposed to be here. And these are the people he's concerned with. These are the people he wants to help out. Because you know what? Say these people get an amnesty and they become citizens, they vote. He knows that these people will vote for Democrats. So, you got to look at Democrats. They're cynical. They help out people that they only help out their own. Mm-hmm. They see giving to these DACA recipients, the free college, as investing in their own, ensuring their own. And it's sick because he should be, if he's going to be giving any money out for free college, it should be New York citizens.
Yeah.
The people that elected him.
Yeah, the people that live and work in your state. You're right.
And, it's illegal to aid and abet illegal aliens to begin with. And not only does he want to help them stay here, he wants to give them free college so then they can, get better paying jobs than American citizens. It's disgusting.
And it's also kind of a funny thing I thought about here. Say you give a DACA person free college and they go to college and they're able to graduate. What happens when we deport them? They can't pay that money back. The state's out of that money now.
Yeah.
So.
Which, it's funny. They always talk about how educated the DACA kids are. Oh, they're smart. They're all these doctors and everything and whatnot. But, actually they're significantly underrepresented in terms of holding degrees.
Right.
There's a study from the Migration Policy Institute called The Education and Work Profiles of the DACA Population. Only 5% of DACA recipients have a college degree, to where at the at-large population in the United States, 40% of Americans hold a degree. DACA recipients are highly unskilled. 20% of them are high school dropouts. So I guess he wants to give them the free college so he can fib on the numbers, because he knows that they don't have degrees, like the way that they make them out in the media.
He's trying to get that number higher.
Yeah. So, sick stuff with that. Really pisses me off.
Yeah.
Let's go on to the next thing that we have here.
Yeah, so here's some more bad news, I should say. Border crossings are spiking back to Obama levels. So, Border crossings hit a historic low in April 2017, but have spiked 625% between then and December 2017, when crossings exceeded December 2016's numbers during Obama's last month in office. Nearly 30,000 illegals were caught trying to cross the border illegally in the month of December 2017 alone. The Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kirsten Nielsen said, quote, "We've got to have the wall. We're going to have the wall. But then you need the technology, you need the people, you need the sensors, you need the cameras, you need the monitoring to make sure that that wall is as effective as it can be." So that's not necessarily saying, when we say that 30,000 number, that doesn't necessarily mean that's how many people were successfully able to cross the border.
That's just who we caught.
That's how many we caught.
So
And
there's
that's
more than
normally
that.
and that's normally how these numbers go. It's very hard to determine how many you unsuccessfully caught. Very easy to determine how many you actually caught. You just count them as you do it. So that's the thing that is also concerning, is that these border crossing numbers, it was great that first few months in office, but they're coming back up now.
The Trump effect on the border is over.
Yeah.
Now they're surging again. And the reason why they're coming is because there's amnesty talks again.
Yeah.
And they want to get in. They see if they can just get here. You have to remember, okay, we always call them undocumented. They don't have documents. What's to stop them to say that they had been there longer than what they got in there?
Exactly.
What's there to stop them from saying, oh, they're actually, say, 24, but no, I came here when I was 16. These are the incentives that happen when you have an amnesty. It causes huge floods of illegal aliens in the country. The border's not secure. We need a wall. We need to increase enforcement. We need more officers out there, and we need it now more than ever.
Yeah. And, especially if they do have a family member here or someone they know, and they're able to get to where they're at and stay with them for a while, then you have other people who also lie for them that say, yeah, they came here when they were 16, when they just got here like 2 days ago. So, these people, they're not going to tell you the truth. So it's a big problem. We need the wall. And Kristen Nielsen's right. It's not just the wall. It's the sensors, it's the guards, it's the cameras, it's everything.
Yeah, let's do all of it.
And so you got to remember, that price tag we have on building the wall is not just the wall. It's also
all the technology,
going in with it. It's the it's not necessarily the pay for like border security that the like border patrol guards and stuff, because that's part of the border patrol budget. But
that's done through DHS.
It's all the sensors, it's all the cameras, it's everything. So really, really important to build the wall right there.
Let's go into the last thing for immigration. ICE is going to be tracking license plates. The Immigration Customs Enforcement Agency has officially gained agency-wide access to a nationwide license plate recognition database, according to a contract finalized earlier this month. The system gives the agency access to billions of license plate records and new powers of real-time location tracking. ICE agents would be able to query that database in two ways: a historical search that would turn up every place a given license plate has been spotted in the last 5 years, detailing a record of the target's movements. That data would be used to find a given subject's residency or even identify associates if a given car is regularly spotted in a specific parking lot. ICE agents can also receive instantaneous email alerts when a new record of a particular plate is found, a system known internally as a hot list. According to the privacy assessment, as many as 2,500 license plates could be uploaded to a hot list in a single batch, although the assessment does not detail how often new batches can be added. With sightings flooding in from police dash cams and stationary readers on bridges and toll booths, it would be hard for anyone on the list to stay unnoticed for long. The source of the data is not named in the contract, but an ICE representative said that the data came from Vigilant Solutions, the leading network for license plate recognition data.
So yeah, if you got a car, they're tracking you.
Which is funny, that they advocate to give these illegal aliens driver's license, so they're driving. And now ICE has access to all these license plates. If you're driving a car, it's going to be easier to find you.
Yeah.
And we're going to track this to where you work. We're going to track this to where you live. ICE's internal enforcement has just gotten a lot stronger.
Yeah, and so if anything, if you're an illegal immigrant who has a driver's license, I would assume that you probably own the car that you're driving, and it's illegal to not have insurance. Now, granted, I figure a lot of these people probably don't, but if they do have insurance, that license plate is tied in with that driver's license, and they're going to easily be able to find you based off of that.
Yeah.
And so even if you leave your house, all they got to do is search the license plate, and they'll get tons of the, police dash cam footage and traffic lights. Because remember, a lot of people think that those traffic lights that you see up there, the traffic cameras, like traffic lights, are there to check to see if someone's speeding or check to see if you're texting and driving. A lot of that's actually license plate readers, and people don't realize that. So, yeah, anywhere that has cameras on intersections is going to be reading those license plates, uploading those things all the time. So all you got to do is just search a single car. Boom, you know that person's location. Like they said, for the last 5 years, everywhere they've gone.
Yeah, we go back 5 years, dude.
And if they keep going to the same locations, you can say, well, they're always going here. Do they know anyone that's there? Wait a minute, this other person's also doing the same thing. Hey, and you're able to track these people down. Years ago, this might have really, really concerned me as more of a, don't spy on me type of libertarian. But at this point, I want these people gone so much that I'm perfectly fine.
And these databases are already out there.
Yeah. Vigilant Solutions is a well-known company. There's lots of different organizations, especially government organizations, that have contracts with them to allow access to that information. Police already have it.
Yeah, I'm fine with ICE having it.
So ICE is just an extension of that. And it's not like, I'd be concerned if, if police officers were using it to try to, track, drug deals or something like that. But ICE is going to be using it specifically to try to, locate illegal immigrants in the country, figure out their whereabouts, and hunt them down. That's the whole point of ICE having it. They're not going to worry if they, see someone speeding, or if they see some regular everyday Americans going through the same area that the illegal is going through. They're not going to care. What they care about is exactly this. They care about hunting down illegals, finding them, and deporting them, which is good enough for me.
Yeah. With that said, let's go into the 2018 elections portion of the show. Last week we didn't have anything.
No, we didn't. This week we
got a couple things.
We got a couple things, not too much, but the first things first. We mentioned earlier about the midterm polls and how well that's doing.
And the blue wave is fading away.
Yeah, and so we got 3 new polls that are out. First off, there's a CNN poll that shows that Democrats have a narrow 5-point lead over Republicans on the generic ballot, 49-45. That same poll last month had Democrats above Republicans by 18 points. That's a 13-point swing in a month. Obviously due to the government shutdown.
Yeah.
But still.
And the success of tax reform.
But as tax reform continues to be successful, if they shut the government down again, if those DACA people keep blocking access to Disneyland, you think everyday Americans are going to say, you know what, I'm in favor of voting for these people's
Let's
amnesty.
Keep them here.
Let's do that.
They seem reasonable.
Yeah. These people don't seem reasonable, and that's part of the swing. And you know what? The fact that what is this, January? We're 10 months away, less than 10 months away now from the general elections, okay? The primaries start with the first state, which is Texas, where we live, March 6th, okay? That's less than 2 months that's like a month and a half from now, okay? Maybe even 5 weeks, all right? Once these things start going and we start seeing the results of early elections, that will also start to shape, states that are later on in the year for their elections as well. And I'm actually very thankful that Texas is the first state, simply because of the fact that Texas is it's a very immigrant-heavy state. It's a border state. Immigration is a very important issue here. And so in the primaries, that's going to drive, like we said, you think that 20% that favors DACA is going to stay home during the primaries? No, they're going to go out there and they're going to be voting for whoever they believe is going to be the best, quote-unquote amnesty Democrat that they have. And like we said, all that's going to do is it's going to cause the elected Democrats, your nominees, to be even farther to the left, to the point where even a moderate Republican seems way more reasonable, okay? If you're only running to try to what's the word I'm looking for? To try to appeal to that 20% that we were talking about. That 80% isn't going to like that. And that 80% is going to think about voting otherwise. Now, granted, we're talking electoral politics. We're talking, you got to look at demographics of districts. You got to look at past voting history. So a lot of those things aren't really going to change. But the fact that Democrats had a 18-point lead a month ago, and that's down to 5, a month before Texas primaries, and 10 months before the election, that's not good for them at all.
And do you know the internals on any of these polls? Because they usually give the Democrats a more sizable proportion than
especially
usually.
For CNN polls. I mean, like I said, in general,
legitimately, this could be like 2 or 3 points.
I was going to say, in general, the electorate of the United States during a presidential election is about D+3. I hate to say it, but that's true. Now, obviously, that varies state to state, which is where it really matters. But a lot of times you'll see they'll put D+7, D+9 polls out there, which is very, very inaccurate. If anything, if let's say this is a more so than a D+3 poll, which I'm certain it is, I could look up the data. I probably should have. But if this is anything more than a D+3 poll, then that 5 points lead is a lot less.
We might even be even.
We might be even. I doubt it would actually have Republicans ahead. And the only reason I say that is because the next poll that we have, which granted, also isn't very accurate, but tends to be slightly more accurate than CNN polls. I'll just read it. There's the NBC Wall Street Journal poll. This one was from last week. It showed Democrats are actually up 6%, 49 to 43. Last month, that poll had Democrats up 11%, 50 to 39. So even that one's been cut in half as well. So you're seeing that in these two left-wing news agencies, which do tend to have biased polls, are both showing that, this huge blue wave that we think is coming, it's not. Hopes of that are fading away. In fact, it's very possible the exact opposite might happen. There might be a red tsunami in 2018.
And then you have one more poll here, the Ipsos poll.
Yeah, there was also an Ipsos poll, also from last week, that had Democrats up 6, 42 to 36. Last month, it had Democrats up 14%, 46 to 32.
All these polls show the same thing, though. It's heading in our direction.
Now, granted, obviously, the numbers are way up. I mean, you got one that has Republicans at 32, one at 39, one at 45. All the Democrat ones are right around 49, 49, 46. So it's the Republican number that's very, very off there, but they all show the same swing. However, though, there's one last thing that's important, and even this, there's actually a little asterisk that I have to say about this. One thing that should be worrying for Republicans is in the CNN poll, they had this thing where they show people who are more excited about voting in the midterms favors Democrats by 15 points. Here's why that does matter. Here's why that doesn't matter. Why that does matter is Democrats are going to be more likely to get out to vote if they're more enthusiastic about it. That's not good for Republicans. So that's the bad news. Good news for Republicans is that's a lot in blue districts, okay? If you have a really blue district that's more excited to come out to vote in the midterms compared to a swing district,
you're not changing anything.
You're not going to change the outcome, okay? And so I figure a lot of the people that are more excited about voting in midterms, those people that are part of that 20%, which I'm absolutely certain that 20% is the same people that say that they're more excited about voting in the midterms. I guarantee you that, at least on the Democrat side. That 20% is mostly in blue states and blue districts. So if you're worrying about losing a swing district, granted, I'm not saying don't try, but I'm saying that those people are probably more in blue districts already. And so, yeah, it's not going to change the outcome. The other thing I want to say about that 15-point number is apparently, I haven't found this yet, so this may or may not be true. We'll try to correct this if we are wrong. There's been another poll out that shows that number has also dropped as well in a newer poll that was released just a couple days ago compared to the CNN poll was released like a week ago. So there you go.
With that said, Bobby, do you want to now go into some of these approval rating declines
absolutely.
We've talked about?
And this is also really, really important, probably even more so than those polls that we just said. So there's a new morning consult poll that was being conducted over the last several months. And this was a poll that they polled over 250,000 people over a several-month period. Now, normally if you poll people over a several-month period, that's not very accurate. However, Morning Consult does this all the time. And what this poll has done is it's comparing the net approval ratings of senators They did this poll back in the first quarter of 2017, and now they've done it in the fourth quarter. So what we're doing is, as we read this data, keep in mind, we are comparing how these numbers have changed from essentially like January, February, March till October, November, December. So just keep that in mind as we read it off. Now, what this poll shows is that the approval ratings for the 10 Democrats in states that Trump won that are up for re-election in 2017, 9 of them have seen net approval declines. Okay, and we're just going to go through these really, really quick. So get your brain on. First off, John Tester, Montana. Like I said, remember he's the only one of these people that voted to continue the government shutdown. Net approval dropped 18% from plus 25 to plus 7. Heidi Heitkamp, North Dakota. Net approval dropped 11 from plus 28 to plus 17. Bob Casey in Pennsylvania. Net approval dropped 9% from plus 20 to plus 11. Claire McCaskill in Missouri. It dropped 8% from plus 8 to 0. And that's why I say Claire McCaskill and Tammy Baldwin from Wisconsin, both of them are very, very likely. But I'll continue. Joe Manchin, West Virginia, declined 8% from plus 24 to plus 16. Joe Donnelly, Indiana, declined 6% from plus 20 to plus 14. Tammy Baldwin, Wisconsin, dropped 6% from plus 6 to 0. Sherrod Brown dropped 4% from plus 22 to plus 18. Bill Nelson, Florida, dropped 2% from plus 27 to plus 25. So, and finally, if you're wondering about that last senator, that is Debbie Stabenow from Michigan. Hers did not have any drop. It remained at plus 9. Now, keep in mind, a lot of these seem like they're really, really high. Like Bill Nelson, Florida, approval plus 25. That doesn't necessarily mean a candidate has
25 points over.
No, that doesn't necessarily mean that they have a positive approval rating. That means the approval rating they have is higher than the disapproval rating. There are a lot of people that have no opinion, okay? There are several candidates, in fact, on the next section here, we've got the 10 senators that have the lowest approval ratings in their home state. The senator who actually lost the most of all those was Bob Menendez from New Jersey, Democrat. And he dropped mostly because he has his corruption trial that he was facing. In fact, it's possible he's going to be returning to trial to face those corruption charges as well. His approval dropped 20% from plus 4 to minus 16. All right. Now, the 10 senators with the lowest approval ratings in their home state, we're just going to say. Now, I'm not going to say all the data here because it's kind of long, but Mitch McConnell, Kentucky Senate Majority Leader, has a 53% disapproval rating in Kentucky. His net approval is minus 21, which means only 32% approve of him. Okay? Now, think about this next one. Jeff Flake is number 2. Okay?
Not running in 2018.
Yeah, not running in 2018. 49% disapproval, 32% approval, net approval minus 17. Now, next we got, Bob Menendez, 45% disapproval. John McCain, 44% disapproval. But John McCain also has a 44% approval. His net approval is 0, which is interesting because you think that would be a lot different. Now, next up is Claire McCaskill, Missouri. She's at 41-41, so hers is 0 as well.
Highly at risk there.
Yeah, very highly at risk. Now, like you said, if you look up, McCain has a net approval of 0. McCaskill has a net approval of 0. Yet his is 44-44. Hers is 41-41. So when you look at that net approval number, that doesn't tell you the full truth here. Because if only 41% approve of her, but 41% disapprove of her, you can have a net approval of 0. That's a lot better than having it be 49-49, okay? So, like I said, when you look at that net approval number, it's important to also look at the other numbers as well. Next up, Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, 41% disapprove, 45% approve. So her net approval is actually plus 4, yet she still has less than 50% approval in the state. So you could say a majority of people don't approve of her.
A lot of that probably comes from her voting in regards to the healthcare bill last year.
Right. So next is Pat Roberts in Kansas, 40% disapproval, 36% approval. Ron Johnson in Wisconsin, Republican, he's at 40% disapproval, 39% approval. So that's like a net of minus 1. Tammy Baldwin, Wisconsin, 40-40. And John Tester in Montana, 40% disapprove, 47% approve. So again, you think a plus 7 seems like that's really, really important, but you're still looking at a majority of people don't approve or at least will not actually say that they do approve of the
Which
job that
doesn't
you're
bode
doing.
well for your midterm
Yeah,
election.
so that's why, although, if we go back, like I said, Bill Nelson, Florida has a plus 25 net approval rating. I guarantee you he probably has a majority of the people in that state that support him. But it just goes to show you that you really have to look at all these numbers because that net number doesn't always tell you the full story.
And as we also said, Tammy Baldwin highly at risk of losing her seat as well.
If I had to go just off of these numbers right now, I would say that the two Democrats that stand the greatest chance of losing is Claire McCaskill in Missouri, Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin, and there was one more. Where was it? I lost it. Whatever. Anyway, it's and John Tester in Montana. So those are the three that I would say probably have the greatest chance of losing. But Joe Donnelly in Indiana, he stands a good chance of losing too. So you really got to
Joe
look at these
Manchin might
things.
lose his, seat. He's a well-liked senator in West Virginia, but just by the fact of how Republican that state is now, he might lose his seat.
And that's part of the reason
Which
why
is also why he's like one of the most pro-Trump Democrat senators, other than Doug Jones.
Yeah, other than Doug Jones's one vote. Love you, Doug Jones. Thank you for being 100%.
But like you look at like Joe Manchin's like Trump score, his is like in the 60s. Mm-hmm. Where most Democrats have like, I don't know, 10.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's really all we have for 2018 elections.
Really
so,
promising stuff though.
Remember, as I have been saying, we're still going to be doing the episodes for every single congressional district, every single Senate race, every single governor race. I'm working on Texas. I'm almost done with Texas. Our Texas episode, we are doing that February 7th, that Wednesday there. Okay? That's like, 2 weeks, maybe a week and a half from now? I've already put in probably over 15 hours of work into this thing, and that's just one state. Granted, Texas is a big state.
Our state,
So it's more important, so I care more about it. Other states, I've actually even noticed myself that I've been cutting back. Like, I was looking up, when people said I'm an author, I was looking up what their book was called, what it was about, all that sort of stuff. But I'm like, all I need to do is just say, the guy's an author. I don't need to say, what the book was about, when it was written. I don't need to say what years or how long you had certain jobs. I can just say what your job was. So I'm actually putting in a lot more effort than I need to. And don't worry, when we do these episodes, it's going to be streamlined. Only the basics, please. But I just want to point that out.
very detailed.
But yeah, February 7th, Wednesday, that's when our first episode for Texas is coming out. It's going to be big. And granted, we're going to go through all of these. So things may change between now and then. And it's very possible that might happen. So, with that being said, I'm done with 2018 elections news for today.
Let's go on to the bottom of the stack stuff we have for national news.
Yeah.
First thing we want to talk about is Democrats are blaming the hashtag release the memo trending on Russian bots. On Tuesday, California Senator Dianne Feinstein and California Representative Adam Schiff sent a letter to Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg and Twitter CEO Jack Dorsey demanding that the social media companies investigate whether Russian-linked bot accounts were behind the movement to get hashtag release the memo to be the #1 trending hashtag. According to the data from RightTag, hashtag release the memo was used in over 2,000 unique tweets across the entire platform on January 18th and more than 531,000 unique tweets on January 19th. That means even if every, quote, Russian-linked Twitter account is in fact a Russian bot, their use of the hashtag only accounted for around 0.0005% of the total on January 18th. The data from RightTag also shows that more than 10.14 million people have been exposed to tweets with the hashtag every hour.
Hey, I tweeted out hashtag release the memo on almost every single tweet that I sent that night, and there were plenty of people that did that. So, you mind if I read the next part here?
Yeah.
So, they said the Daily Beast reported Tuesday, quote, the online groundswell urging the release of House Republicans' attacks on the FBI appears thus far to be originally American, not Russian propaganda. A source familiar with Twitter's internal analysis told the outlets that the authentic American accounts, not Russian and not Russian imposters or automated bots are driving hashtag release the memo. Furthermore, there are no preliminary indications that the Twitter activity either driving the hashtag or engaging with it is either predominantly Russian, according to the report. Now, there were a couple of people that tweeted about it, and this is some of the things I want to know. So, Republican Representative Steve King from Iowa, he tweeted and he said, quote, "I have read the memo. The sickening reality has set in. I no longer hold out hope. There is an innocent explanation for the information the public has seen. I have long said it is way worse than Watergate. It was hashtag never Trump and hashtag always Hillary. Hashtag release the memo." That was a tweet that he sent out January 20th. Now, that was the day after it started to blow up on January 19th. Okay? That got 12,000 retweets and about 19,000 likes. So all of that plays into that Twitter algorithm there.
Yeah.
Now, for any of you who don't follow James Breuer on Twitter, I suggest you do. His Twitter handle is at JBRO_1776. So JBro1776. He actually has a map that Twitter has. He says, this is some data on where the tweets attached to hashtag release the memo have been coming from. At Senator Feinstein and at Representative Schiff keep lying to Americans, saying this was done by Russians. This is completely inaccurate. I have plenty more data to back that claim up. And his data shows that of the tweets that used hashtag release the memo, 90.58% came from the United States. Only 0.36%, just over 1/3 of 1%, actually came from Russia.
Yeah.
And yet, Feinstein and Schiff are demanding that Twitter investigate this to shut down those Russian
Because
bot accounts.
everything that, is bad for Democrats means that Russians were doing that.
Right.
Automatically.
Always.
That's always.
And
that's
that's what
how
they
this
go
stuff
to.
works. That's the go-to. Which I can't wait. Soon enough, this Russia investigation of Mueller has to die, especially with the speed that the release the memo stuff is coming from, which is why they're freaking out. Because if you don't know, the memo, which is David Nunes's independently created memo, goes over the Obama administration's FBI FISA abuses to wiretap Trump during the campaign, and in 4 pages, and they're working on releasing this stuff out right now. In 4 pages, it explains in pretty layman terms what was going on, and as Steve King says, and many other people have said, this stuff, it's worse than Watergate, and they're afraid, and they don't know what to do. So it's time to blame Russia. It's time to lie. That's what we do.
Yeah, and also I would not be surprised if Schiff or Feinstein are named in the memo, and that's part of the reason why they're trying to destroy the credibility of the thing itself.
Yeah.
But I did want to say regarding the memo itself, we are trying to get it released. The reason why is because there's a lot of information in there that is classified as top secret, and that has to be voted on and allowed to be released to the public. Now, the president, he could, at any time he wants, declassify the thing and release it. Now, my question is, why hasn't this happened already? I'm surprised it hasn't been leaked already. But they're keeping this thing under wraps because, frankly, I think because if it's really as bad as they say it is in terms of the information that's in there,
we need to know.
They are scared, and the Democrats are doing everything they can to get it not released or to discredit it from the get-go. Yet everything that's in there, if David Nunes is telling the truth, and I have no reason to believe that he isn't, he's done his own research, he's talked to people, he's documented, he has everything in that thing sourced. Or that might also be the problem, is that they have all the information, but they want to make sure that anybody doing research in this can verify every single thing that's written on those 4 pieces of paper. Okay, and that's also something important, too, that we also need to remember. Because if they just go ahead and release the thing, and you're like, okay, wait a minute. Hold up. What is this here? Where did you get this information? Then it might look bad on Republicans if they can't immediately identify where it came from or what it says. So that's also something that my personal opinion is that the reason they haven't released it yet, number one, is because they're being held up. But number two, they're just making sure that they're crossing every T, dotting every I, sourcing every single word on that piece of paper so that when they release that thing, and they're going to release that thing, that it's as extremely and as detrimental to the left as it possibly can be and helps the right as much as it can. And I guarantee you that when it does get released, heads will roll.
Yeah.
So that's what I have to say.
Let's move on. Next thing we have here now, and that is Hawaii.
Yeah, we're debating whether or not to actually talk about this, but I really love this story here. So the Hawaii governor said he couldn't tweet about that fake missile alert because he forgot his password. Okay, on Monday, Hawaii Governor David Ige told reporters at the Hawaii State of the State address that the reason for him taking so long to respond to the fake missile alert is because he forgot the password to his Twitter account. He said, quote, "I have to confess that I don't know my Twitter account logons and the passwords, so certainly that's one of the changes that I've made. I've been putting that on my phone so that we can access the social media directly." Look at that word choice that he uses. Twitter account logons and passwords. We can access the social media directly. This is a guy who doesn't know how to use the internet.
Yeah.
I guarantee you that. And it makes you wonder, how are these people elected officials?
Why are you responsible?
Why are you how do you not know how to use Twitter? You tell me you don't have a single staffer that has your account on their phone right now? You're telling me
why don't you have this your stuff information saved somewhere?
Yeah. I'm not saying, have it like in a Word document that anyone can potentially hack, but at least somewhere have that stuff. Most of those people that have verified accounts for elected officials, their accounts aren't run by them. It's run by staffers. Granted, they tell them what to post, but it's some staffer, some intern that has that account on their phone that has access to that. So, I don't know. Anyways, I'll continue. And this is why it's actually so important for him to actually tweet about it. Because Hawaii Representative Tulsi Gabbard, she said, quote, she tweeted.
Tulsi Gabbard.
Gabbard, I'm sorry, I pronounced that wrong. She tweeted, "Hawaii, this is a false alarm. There is no incoming missile to Hawaii. I have confirmed with officials there is no incoming missile." That tweet got 22,000 retweets and 35,000 likes. So, that reaches a hell of a lot of people. Because just because it's 22,000 retweets, that's probably, maybe multiply that by 5 times, that tells you how many people that reaches, okay? So it's very important that they actually use these Twitter accounts to release information like this. So I'm not saying people shouldn't be using Twitter at all. I'm saying they should be using it more. But anyways, Ajit Pai, who's the chairman of the FCC, he said the alert was, quote, "totally unacceptable and that an investigation is currently underway. As of now, it appears to be an accident." But we also have an update in the story as well. And that's that the employee who sent out the fake missile alert is refusing to cooperate with the investigation. According to officials close to it, the Hawaii employee who sent out the fake alert is refusing to cooperate with federal and state investigators. Spokesman Richard Raposa said the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency has encouraged all employees to cooperate with the investigations. He said that the worker who sent it has also refused to cooperate with the state agency's internal investigations. Head of the FCC Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau, Lisa Fowles, however you pronounce that, she said the agency was disappointed in the refusal of cooperation by the individual, but she was pleased with the cooperation of leaders of the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency. Meanwhile, Hawaii Senator Brian Schatz told the committee that he was introducing legislation making it clear that the authority to issue missile alerts rests with the U.S. Department of Defense and Homeland Security, not with state and local governments. The name of the worker has not yet been released. So this is some really bad news, the fact that he's not cooperating with authorities right now. Or she, could be a she.
Whoever it is.
Whoever it is. Now, here's the thing about Brian Schatz's bill that he wants to introduce. When it comes, and this was what people talked about when the original alert first went out, okay? You can have it go through all the necessary channels. You can have it get permission from the president. You can have it get permission from Homeland Security and the DOD. You can get all that permission. But what does it really come down to? It comes down to a single employee sitting at a computer and pressing a button, okay? So if you want to really make sure that that authority doesn't rest with that person, then what you need to do is completely redo your system so that when one person presses it, it doesn't immediately go out until 2 or 3 or 4 other people also press it at the same time. Because as of right now, this could happen again, okay? Like I said, at the end of that chain of events to get that thing released, it comes down to a single guy sitting in front of the computer pressing the button. And, if this thing was an accident, when the fake missile alert went out last week or 2 weeks ago or whenever it was, like we said, the guy was probably logging off the computer and accidentally clicked the button before he closed the tab or something. So he didn't even know, or she, didn't even know. And that's what they're saying is the guy said he didn't even know until afterwards. So, yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, crazy stuff on that. Do you want to go now into the stuff in the Vermont high school?
I do. This story is
A little crazy.
It is a little crazy. I knew I had to talk about it. So, Montpelier High School in the state capital of Montpelier, Vermont, announced that they'll be flying a Black Lives Matter flag during February for Black History Month. Administrators caved to pressure from a student group called the Racial Justice Alliance. The group demanded that the school launch a program to discuss, quote, the need for racial justice, and students also praised the school for changing its curriculum and retraining teachers for what they call a social justice agenda. However, the group is demanding more be done, and yet the group said, we need to do more to raise our predominantly white community's collective consciousness to better recognize white privilege and implicit bias. Now, here's the thing. The term predominantly white that they use is a gross under-exaggeration, okay? Using the data from the U.S. Census Bureau, the state of Vermont is 93.1% non-Hispanic white, the highest in the nation. Blacks, on the other hand, compared to being 13% of the United States population, only make up 1.3% of Vermont's population. That's a factor of 10 times less by percentage.
Yeah.
Now,
and the United States is only what, 65%?
62% white.
62% non-Hispanic white.
Non-Hispanic white. Now, the last thing I want to say is the city of Montpelier, Vermont is within Washington County in Vermont. Washington County's demographics, 94.3% white, only 1% black. So not only do you have an extremely white state and extremely not black state, the county that city is in is even more white than the state is, and even less black than the state is. And yet that 1.3% or that 1% has all the power to make them have to fly the flag. Because they caved to the pressure. The racial
radical political movement in the United States, they're flying a flag for. Why are you honoring any sort of political movement in a high school?
Yeah.
Isn't that a little, indoctrination?
It is.
And what they want to do with this quote-unquote social justice agenda, that's also indoctrination too. Okay, if I had a kid, I wouldn't want them to have to be taught about white privilege, bullshit.
Yeah.
It's all lies to make them feel guilty about being white.
And when it's one thing to talk about white privilege when 40% of your class is, minorities. It's another thing to talk about white privilege when 99% of your class is white.
In most of these classrooms, it's 100% white.
Precisely.
In most of these classrooms. So, I don't know.
Do you want us to move on?
Yeah, just dumb stuff in Vermont. Let's go to the last story.
It's, what are you going to get when you're from the state where Bernie Sanders is your senator?
Yeah. States are suing the federal government over the new tax law. The governors of Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York said Friday they will form a coalition and sue over the federal tax plan that limits state and local tax deductions. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo said the federal plan, approved last month by Congress and signed by President Trump, is an assault on blue states with high taxes. The tax reform limits the deductibility of local and state taxes, including property taxes, up to 10 years or $10,000 a year, which hurts high-income earners. This is hilarious.
Yeah, it is.
So the way the Democrats have propagandized the tax bill is it's all just handouts to the rich.
Right.
All to the millionaires and billionaires, as Bernie Sanders would say.
And yet we on this program from day one said this is going to raise taxes on the rich.
Yeah.
And what's funny is there are they always try to get the rich people out there to say, yeah, go ahead, raise my taxes. And everyone on the left is always like, yeah, we should be raising taxes on the rich. Yet those exact same people, now that taxes are being raised on the rich, are saying, no, that's not fair. You can't do that. You can't raise my taxes like this. You can't do that.
So places like New Jersey, Connecticut, and New York have some of the highest state and local income taxes in the United States. And losing the deductions hurts their rich people, and it's the rich people, it's not the poor in these areas, that are the ones complaining to the government to sue the federal government over this.
Right.
So it's just like, what is the actual truth? And again, it's Democrats just lie about things. And it's funny, the people that say that, oh, I'm okay with the rich being taxed high, they're the ones that are complaining.
It's hypocrisy at the highest level.
At the highest level. I want to pull up the exact quotes from Cuomo on this stuff that's really funny. Quote, there is a very strong argument that the bill is a fundamental violation of states' rights and repugnant to the very concept of federalism that forms the nation, Cuomo said in a conference call with Connecticut Governor Daniel Malawi and New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy. Cuomo contends the federal law is illegal.
That's hilarious. It really is.
These people are so stupid. They're such brazen liars. And yet they're elected officials. Mm-hmm. It just shows you how, out there some of these blue states are. It's really sad.
Yeah.
Let's go on to current year college craziness, Bobby. Current year college craziness, the segment of the show where we talk about the crazy stuff happening on college campuses here and abroad, but predominantly here because we got the best crazy colleges in the world. And let's go straight into it with one of the craziest statements I think that we've ever had to talk about on current year college craziness. And that is there's a professor at Fordham University, which, Bobby, can you look up for me where that is? Because I don't know where that is.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
But there's a professor that says...
Massachusetts,
Fordham University, that says, being black in America is a disability.
And she's a black professor, too.
Yeah, she's a... Kimani Paul Emile, a black law professor at Fordham University, argues that African Americans should embrace...
I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I'm sorry I'm interrupting you. Fordham University is in New York, is in the Bronx.
Oh, okay.
That was my bad. I'm sorry.
It's all good. Let me start over. Kimani Paul Emile, a black law professor at Fordham University, argues that African Americans should embrace the notion that being black in America is a disability as a new legal strategy towards enacting protections for the black community against unconscious bias, stereotyping, and structural inequality. Quote, rather than focusing on malicious intent, disability law accepts the impact of even neutral actions, policies, and programs, directly confronting the ways in which social structures, institutions, and norms can substantially limit a person's ability to perform a major life activity. It thus requires that even discrimination based on unacknowledged bias be addressed, she wrote in her article, forthcoming piece in Georgetown Law Review. With that, black people can claim blackness as disability, as a remedial legal effort to benefit the black community against what she contends is the limited opportunity African Americans face today due to unconscious bias, stereotyping, and structural inequality. And then I got one last paragraph. Quote, blackness in the U.S. has an independent disabling effect distinct from the effects of socioeconomic status, the law professor wrote. She lists many reasons for black people's perceived disabilities, including, quote, facing increased likelihood relative to whites of living in poverty, attending failing schools, experiencing discrimination in housing, being denied a job interview, being stopped by the police, being killed during a routine police encounter, receiving inferior medical care, living in substandard conditions and in danger and/or polluted environments, being or underemployed, receiving longer prison sentences, and having a lower life expectancy.
How in the world do any of those things account to a disability? Unless you're saying that the disability they have for being black, according to her, is leading to those, things that are happening to them.
Okay, so I'll explain it
Let's
from
take a step back here.
I'll explain it from the perspective that she's putting it out there. So she's contending that blacks should say that they're disabled because of factors such as unconscious bias, stereotyping, and structural inequality. That they should have disability laws that protect them because even neutral actions, policies, programs that don't directly disadvantage them still can disadvantage them. So it's in their collective interest to say that they're disabled because they're black.
It sounds to me like an excuse to get more government handouts, personally.
Yeah, and like more affirmative action and stuff of the sorts, which they receive a lot of that stuff already. And, you know, it's funny, like, for all, like, the advantages that they have in society, in, like, an institutional way, like, there are laws that benefit them over the majority, you know, white people in the United States. Why aren't they able to elevate themselves not only to the level of whites, but above whites?
You'd think they would.
Like, in a structural institutional advantage, they have advantage over whites in a myriad of different ways, but they can't. So I don't know. Like, because if whites had all of the advantages that blacks have from, like,
the structural advantages literally in the law, favoring them over everybody else,
you would see whites elevate to a level so much higher.
Yeah.
Why, with all the advantages that we give to blacks, aren't they some sort of elite in this country? I mean,
she said it right there.
You know, you think about, let's talk about college admittances. So African Americans can score something like, what, 200 points lower on their SATs
right around that
than
number. Whites
and still get admitted to college. They have way more access to scholarships than whites do in this country. They have even more advantage than other minorities, such as Asians in colleges. They have much more ability to go to college if they choose so. And yet they are often, in most colleges, underrepresented. Why, with all this opportunity given to them, can't they elevate themselves?
Beats me.
I think it comes from a place of, and it comes to where, you know, black is a disability. They just want to blame outside forces when they have the tools in front of them and advantages presented in front of them, and they just don't run with it. I don't know. But, yeah, Professor says being black in America is a disability.
Ugh.
Let's go on to the next one, which is not much better.
Yeah, not much better. So this is about Oxford University over there in
United Kingdom.
In the United Kingdom, Oxford University is going to be giving female students extra time to take their exams. So Oxford University is raising the time limits for exams in a bid to increase the test scores of female students. So students taking math and computer science exams in the summer of 2017 were given an extra 15 minutes to complete their papers after faculty ruled that, quote, female candidates might be more likely to be adversely affected by time pressure. There was no change to the length or the difficulty of the questions. Before the change, the percentage of male students earning degrees was double that of female students. But by raising the time limits, they found it actually increased the rate for both genders, and the ratio stayed roughly the same. So it's not that they are giving, like, males an hour and females 75 minutes. They're giving everybody an extra 15 minutes to try to improve those female rates of earning degrees. Instead, it just made the males more likely to also earn degrees as well, so that ratio stayed pretty much the same. I think that's pretty funny, personally.
It's a weird way to try and address the problem when really shouldn't colleges just be setting standards, and if you can't meet them, you can't meet them? Why would the college seek to increase people getting degrees, like, by giving more time. I don't know. It's just confusing. It like flies in the face of having like academic standards. Like it just lowers like them.
Well, what I find personally funny is the fact that they thought that by just increasing the time would just only help out the female students, but instead it helped out the male students at the exact same rate that it helped out the female students.
What I want is like, do you have any sort of empirical evidence that female candidates might be more likely to be adversely affected by time pressure? How would anyone even study that?
I have no idea. The only way
I doubt that they have anything on it, but I would love to know.
No, what they just did is they looked at their graduation, or not really necessarily graduation rates, but their rate of earning degrees is what they're going off of, so we'll go off of that. They're just looking at that and they realize, wait a minute, males are doing this at like twice the rates of females. How do we fix this? They're like, what's something that we can do? What is something that we can do that might fix this problem? Oh, let's give them an extra 15 minutes on their exams. That might do it. Oh, but we have to justify it. Well, say that females are more likely to, be adversely affected by the time pressure than male students are. Instead, male students realize, hey, I have an extra 15 minutes. I can go back and look at those questions. Wait a minute. I went back and I realized I did this one wrong. I fixed it. I just got a higher grade. The female students are doing the exact same thing. It's not helping anybody more than it's helping anybody else. It's helping everybody at the same time. If anything, I'd say it's, if you're one of those students that's really, really, really good, it doesn't matter if you have an extra 15 minutes in your exam. You're going to do well regardless. If anything, it helps the students that are lower down that might need an extra 15 minutes to fix it, or I'm sorry, to finish the exam, or to go back and recheck their questions. That's who it might help. Problem is, if those people also start earning degrees too, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's male or female issue. What that means is you're just wanting more people to earn degrees. Hell, if we want more people to earn degrees, how about we just get people an unlimited amount of time to take the exam?
Why take grades?
Why take grades? Why don't, if you're going to have exams, how about we just let everything be open book no matter what? Yeah. Open book, open note. You can talk to your friends too.
What's the point?
What's the point? If you're trying to raise your, graduation, I'm sorry, I keep saying graduation rates. If you're trying to raise your rates of earning degrees, then you're definitely going at it the wrong way.
Yeah. Let's go on now to the University of Connecticut. Ben Shapiro gave a little speech there.
Ben Shapiro.
A little speech.
So, the University of Connecticut is now going to be,
has.
I was going to say has. I wrote this, and then it happened, so just, University of Connecticut offering counseling to students after the Ben Shapiro speech. So, ahead of Wednesday night's speech, and keep in mind this was last Wednesday, the one that just finished. So ahead of Wednesday night's speech by conservative Jewish commentator Ben Shapiro, the University of Connecticut told students that might have been triggered by the speech to seek the campus's counseling services. In a letter sent to students, the Associate Vice President and Chief Diversity Officer of University of Connecticut, Joelle Murchison, stated, quote, "We understand that even the thought of an individual coming to campus with the views that Mr. Shapiro expresses can be concerning and even hurtful, and that's why we want to make sure and that's why we want to make you aware as soon as we were informed. In the meantime, please utilize the many campus resources available to you should you want to talk through your feelings about this issue, including my office, the cultural centers, the Dean of Students office, and counseling and mental health services if necessary." However, despite the increased security, Ben Shapiro gave his speech in front of a very packed and excited crowd. The University of Connecticut College Democrats even held a counter event on campus, calling it, quote, "Ben Shapiro is not as insightful as he thinks he is."
I don't think the college Democrats are either, though.
No, they're definitely not. I mean, I don't really like Ben Shapiro myself, but you don't got to get triggered enough that you have to go seek counseling.
I'm not a huge fan of Ben Shapiro either, but it's just like, he literally is one of the most moderate voices in Republicanism.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I don't particularly like him. I think he's all right. I think he brings up some good points sometimes. I don't personally agree with some of the things he says a lot.
And he's not that edgy.
No, he's not. He's not like even the Milo Yiannopoulos type isn't that bad.
No. But he's like nowhere near even like Milo Yiannopoulos tier.
Granted,
the most edgy thing he says is like, transgenderism is a mental disorder.
Oh no, I need counseling.
Oh no, get the counseling. Get the counseling. Where's the chief diversity officer to help me? It's like,
Now, I mean, hey,
I don't like to use the term like snowflake, but like, is there any more term that's really more apt?
I think it's a perfect description for these people here.
Yeah.
Because, I mean,
They're just fragile little things that melt away.
I was gonna say, being a conservative on a, maybe not necessarily the most liberal campus here in the world. Obviously, Texas State's not that bad.
But it's one of the more liberal colleges in Texas.
Yeah, the student body isn't
It's
that
like
liberal.
it's the sixth most liberal.
Sixth most liberal. Anyways, they have extremely liberal speakers come talk all the time. Do you see any of us getting triggered that we need to go to the counseling office? No. In fact, I bet you if a conservative student, especially a male conservative student, walked into a counseling office crying and they asked what's wrong, he said, "This guy I disagree with is coming to campus to talk later today."
Even
It's
if you
you're
had
an idiot. Go home.
Even if, like, the college Democrats were sponsoring Julius Malema of the Economic Freedom Fighters saying that we need to kill all white people, like, I wouldn't need counseling for that. Like, it's weird. I don't know. But whatever. I guess
I got to give the University of Connecticut College Democrats credit for one thing, though. That Ben Shapiro's not as insightful as he thinks he is. That's a really funny title.
It is funny,
That's a funny title for a counter protest. I got to give you guys credit for that.
What the hell would
as much as I don't like you people, that was funny. That was a good one.
What the hell would they even talk about at that event, though?
No, it's just a counter protest. They probably just stood there with signs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's funny, though. Okay, let's go on to the next story. This is in regards to an instructor at Arizona State University. A volunteer for a group, No More Deaths, which offers aid to illegal immigrants crossing the U.S.-Mexico border, has been arrested in southern Arizona. He is also an instructor at Arizona State University and teaches an online environmental studies course, the school confirms. The arrest of Scott Daniel Warren, age 35, on a federal harboring charge came several hours after the group released video last week showing Border Patrol agents kicking over water bottles left for illegal aliens. Quote, Mr. Warren was not acting in his capacity as an ASU employee at the time of his alleged incident, and we have no reason to believe it will impact his ability to fulfill his current duty with the university, a university spokesman said in a statement. Well, if he's in jail, I think that might.
Yeah, I think
that might interfere with his ability to do online courses.
Yeah, and I looked into this a little bit. That federal harboring charge that he actually got. It's one charge, but it's for two people. So he's being charged with harboring two people in the country illegally.
I don't know how much like the minimum sentencing on that is, but I know it's at least a year.
Yeah, and also, like I said, I was looking into this. He was arrested just hours after that video went out. So a lot of people, I can very well understand people's viewpoints that they thought that was a politically motivated retaliation arrest on the guy. However, the Border Patrol did say that
that still isn't like a legal arrest.
No, I mean, the Border Patrol said that they have been monitoring him for the last couple of weeks, and that it was just now that they went in and actually arrested him. So no, it absolutely was a politically motivated revenge arrest. But that doesn't mean that the charges aren't false. They've been monitoring that guy for the last couple of weeks, and they just... once the video released, you know what? Go ahead, go get him right now. We could have waited another couple weeks to arrest him. Go get him. And that's exactly what happened, and I'm glad it did. So, I hate to be one of those students that's taking an online environmental studies course. Like, okay, whatever.
It would be funny though to have that course signed up and then you have to change it because the guy went to jail for harboring illegals. You still have to pay for it. They'd probably let you switch to a different class, though.
I would hope so.
Or maybe they'd just bring in someone else to teach it.
That's probably what would happen.
Probably what would happen.
Can he teach it from jail, though? That's the question.
No, he wouldn't be allowed to do that.
Okay.
Let's go to the next one. This is actually 4 different universities.
Yeah.
Student unions at 4 universities in Toronto: Ryerson University, the University of Toronto, Mississauga, the University of Ontario Institute of Technology, and Durham College have refused to authorize 3 clubs that run against the PC agenda. 2 are pro-life, and a third is a men's rights group. The groups are now taking the issue to court, backed by the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, to fight the, quote, bad faith and bias that has denied them official status on campus. Student union actions against students with different ideological perspectives is stifling democratic discussion and debate on campus, where diversity of opinions is supposed to flourish. Justice Center lawyer Marty Moore argued earlier with the court. Ryerson's Men's Issue Awareness Society, MIAS, was created in 2015 to deal with issues that disproportionately affect men and boys, such as higher rates of suicide, homelessness, workplace injuries, and failure in school. Interestingly enough, nearly half of MIAS's members are women, but the club was repeatedly been denied recognition by Ryerson Student Union. The RSU claims the group would cause an unsafe environment for women on campus and has purported links to anti-feminist groups. They were told it was an RSU requirement to acknowledge the systemic privilege that men have. Quote, they have to acknowledge there's a systemic suppression of women. The judge asked incredulously. He was told they must.
I'm sorry, I typed that. Typed that one. He asked. He said they have to acknowledge there's a systematic suppression of women. He was told they must.
Yes. The reasons they gave us were ridiculous. The group's former president recalled in an interview, quote, they claim we would bring violence and misogyny against women on campus, which is not true. Half of our members are women. If you look at our mandate, our constitution, as well as the events that we held, none of them were in any way directed negatively towards women. UTM Students for Life used to have club status at University of Toronto, Mississauga, but the Students' Union refused to renew them because of their stance on abortion. Then they changed tack and said it was because of technical problems in their constitution. Yet when SFL tried to make the required changes, Moore claimed the Students' Association stacked the meeting with people opposed to the group and the motion failed. The third group, Speak for the Weak, was told it was denied club status because it's pro-life and allowing the club on campus would run counter to, quote, building an environment free of systemic societal oppression and decolonization.
I guess decolonization has a lot to do with life.
Everyone knows that you need abortion to decolonize.
Right.
What
it doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
And you know, I got to go back to like that men's rights group. You know, they said that they want to deal with issues that disproportionately affect men and boys, such as high rates of suicide, homelessness, workplace injuries, failure in school.
Lack of freedom of speech in colleges.
That's a conservative issue, Enzo.
But it is a men's rights issue.
It is a men's rights issue.
Because these guys aren't allowed to have a club.
No. You can have your women's rights groups. You can have your pro-choice groups. But, oh, God forbid you have a group that tries to help men with men's issues. And it's not like they're even making the issues up. You know, what they say is absolutely true. Men do have higher rates of suicide. Men do have higher rates of homelessness. Men do have higher rates of workplace injuries, and they fail in school more often. Okay?
But they have to acknowledge there's a systemic suppression of women, Bobby. Not of men. Not of men. Even though the courts are the ones that are striking them down.
Yeah, I know. It's like, God, I hate Canada so much. I really do.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to live there. Let's go to the last one.
Yeah, this one was yours.
Yeah, just let me pull it up. So, students held a bleed-in to demand free menstrual products at the University of Florida, Bobby, this last week.
Interesting.
The article is still loading.
I've got it up for me.
Okay.
So, University of Florida students held a bleed-in demonstration on Tuesday, going around campus with fake blood on their pants to protest the lack of free menstrual products. A student government committee recently rejected a proposal to fund free menstrual products through a mandatory student fee, but some senators are now pledging to find other funding sources before the end of the semester. So, Yeah, they said on January 15th, a student government committee rejected a proposal to provide free menstrual products to female students through the mandatory activity and service fee, expressing concerns about applying mandatory fees paid by all students towards funding that would only benefit the female half of the University of Florida student body. So that seems like it's so far a pretty reasonable stance. Like, why do I have to pay for something if only half the students?
Why would a guy have to pay that fee if he wouldn't even be the beneficiary of that fee?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so at Texas State, they charge you a fee, an athletics fee.
Right.
If you want to go to the games or not, you still have to pay the fee.
But that's
still available to you.
If you want to go to the games, great. If you don't want it, great. You still got to pay it.
If you don't have a vagina, you have absolutely no use for these tampons. So that's what they're arguing.
Yeah. They said a student group called Gators Matter Period, which began circulating a petition in support of the proposal last fall, responded by organizing a bleed-in protest during which roughly 24 students stained the back of their pants red, according to their student newspaper, The Alligator. This is a part of reproductive justice, said Shannon Matthew, who was among the first students to join the protest. She said, I'm not ashamed of my period, and I don't think anyone should be. A Facebook event page called Are You Seeing Red? Demonstration explains that participants wore washable dye on our bums, as if we didn't have a pad and the blood bled through. The organizers provided supplies for those who needed them, but encouraged students to bleed in however they wanted to as well. God, that's really disgusting.
It's really childish.
And you know what? When it comes to products on campus, we were talking about this before the show. If you're really that worried about not having the supplies on campus, and what you should be advocating for is those supplies to be put in vending machines on campus, okay? And I say this from experience because my freshman year when I lived in the dorms at Texas State, we had a vending machine downstairs, and obviously, it had like candy and stuff like that, but it also had condoms and it had tampons. Okay? Yeah. And it was anybody who wanted to could walk up, stick a couple of quarters or $1 in that machine, and then push the number and get that out. But they had that at every single dorm on campus.
They just want it free, Bobby. If it's not free, it's oppression.
Exactly,
if it's not free, it's oppression.
Yeah, they said they estimate that the product will cost just under $5,000 and speculated that the pilot program could eventually be expanded to include roughly 60 gender-neutral restrooms.
I feel like they could just get donations if it's not that much
If it's only $5,000, yeah, exactly. Like, you know how much the budget is for those schools? $5,000 is chump change. Like,
not much
comparatively speaking, the wall costs more to the United States government than $5,000 costs to that school. The University of Florida is not a tiny school. It's massive. It's bigger than Texas State is.
Yeah.
$5,000 for Texas State.
It's the biggest university in Florida.
Yeah. They shouldn't have any problem funding that. Hell, you could make a GoFundMe that says we want free menstrual products, $5,000, and just share that around some like liberal pages or anything. You could raise that money in a day.
But like these things aren't expensive to begin with.
No, they're not.
Like, okay, obviously I don't have to buy these products myself, but like you can see them at the store, and they only cost like $10 for the package.
Yeah, I mean,
then you get like a bunch of them.
Yeah, they're like 42 a pack for like $10, like 40 cents a piece, which is essentially about the same price that you'd go to the vending machine on campus. I mean, I am making this number up, but it's like $1 for two. Okay, that's 50 cents a piece compared to 40 cents a piece if you get a 40 pack for $10.
So yeah, I don't know. It's stupid stuff, but that's what feminists do. They pretend to bleed their pants.
Yeah.
Let's move on to international news. We're gonna start off with Europe, and the first thing we have in Europe is out of Germany.
Yeah. So German city has banned refugees. The German city of Cottbus, located south of Berlin, has been hit with attacks from refugees and far-right extremists since the beginning of the year. 2 Syrian teenagers were arrested for slicing another 16-year-old boy's face open with a knife, which started a massive fight at a school between German and Syrian kids. This was done just days after 3 Syrian teens, aged 14, 15, and 17, attacked a man and his wife outside of a shopping center. The 15-year-old was given a negative residency permit, and he and his family were ordered to leave the city. The city of roughly 100,000 people has brought in about 3,000 refugees since the year 2015. A police spokesman said that police would be deployed on the streets in the evenings for as long as it takes. Last year, several other last year, several other cities made similar ban policies. Salzgitter, Delmenhorst, and Wilhelmshaven, all in the Lower Saxony region of northwestern Germany. So, yeah. Finally, it seems like
Saxony
Germany
is in Eastern Europe. Or, I mean, Eastern Germany.
I'm sorry. Yeah, northeastern Germany. I wrote that wrong. My bad. But yeah, they're banning the refugees after some problems with the little children there. So,
Which is good, but it's sad that they even had to bring it to this point. Like, why do they even have to bring these people in?
why
They're-
should that city?
They're harming the people there.
Why should that city have to bring in 3,000 refugees in 2 years?
They didn't get to vote on this.
They didn't. I guarantee you, they didn't.
But
get
it
to vote on
affects
it.
their lives
Yeah.
dramatically.
You think that 16-year-old kid who got his face sliced open with a knife is going to be very happy about the fact that there's refugees there? You think that that old man and his wife that were outside that shopping center that got attacked by those 3 Syrian kids, you think that they did anything wrong to deserve that? I guarantee you they did not.
Yeah. So it's messed up.
Yeah. But good thing that they're banning refugees, so
Yeah, good on that.
problem is they need to deport the ones that they already have, but at least it's something.
So the next thing we have is a report finds 90% of underage Moroccan migrants to Sweden are actually adults. A new cooperation agreement between Sweden and Morocco to share their fingerprint databases reveals that 90% of underage Moroccan asylum seekers are actually adults. These findings are in line with data from the Swedish National Board of Forensic Medicine earlier this year, which found that 86% of all child migrants were actually adults based on their dental records and hormone levels. The Swedish government has been forced to concede that thousands of jihadists entered Sweden alongside the economic migrants. The migrants have also brought with them crime. Consider that migrants commit 2/3 of all violent rapes in Sweden, and that this figure increased by 10% last year. Migrants bring crime, and it's getting worse. The same is true in Germany, where migrants commit 53% more crime in 2016 than they did in 2015. The economic picture is little better. Sweden spends nearly 20% of its national budget on migrants, including education, policing, and healthcare. In Austria, studies have shown that upwards to 90% of all migrants collect government welfare, to the exclusion of working. Migrants won't pay for Europe's welfare state. They'll destroy it. It's time they realized this.
Well, this isn't surprising to anyone. I mean, all you got to do is watch those videos of the migrants walking across and going to Europe. Those are not children.
Yeah, but
Okay.
it's always pitched to us like, oh, think of the women's children, think of the women's children. These
all
children are
fighting
not
age males.
children. These children are not children, and there's not a lot of women either.
They're all fighting age males.
Yeah.
The vast majority of them. There are very few who are
more than
actually women or children.
85%.
Yeah, that sounds actually about a good number there.
And as we said, they almost exclusively are on welfare. They don't work. They commit a lot more crime than the native population. They commit a lot of rapes. And it's bad stuff. They're
Yeah.
destroying Europe.
They are.
And doesn't look like it's going to stop anytime soon.
Yeah, unfortunately not.
Let's
So,
go on to some stuff in London.
Yeah, not much better for the news here. So, London knife attacks are up 40%. We got some data from 2017 that shows that knife attacks in London were up 38% last year as the problem only keeps getting worse. They also showed that robbery was up 29%, sex offenses were up 23%, burglary was up 8%, vehicle-related theft was up 18%, knife crime overall was up 21%, and violent crime in London was up 20%. In England and Wales, violent crime was up 17% overall. So,
That is huge.
yeah. So, overall, crime is just getting worse and worse and worse in England, especially in London.
And this is due to the huge flood of migrants coming in,
they
which
didn't have
they
these
aren't allowed
problems
to
before.
stop.
They can't even speak out against it. I mean,
No.
they're actively arresting people that post anti-Muslim things on the internet.
Let's move on to the final refugee story, and then we'll go into the last thing we have for Europe. But,
Okay.
I'm covering both anyways.
Yeah, go right ahead.
So, a court in the European Union has ruled that if a refugee claims that they are a homosexual in their country of origin, they cannot be deported no matter what.
And all they have to do is claim it.
All they have to do is claim it. And even if they, quote unquote, claim to convert to to be heterosexual, they still can't be deported back. All you have to do is claim. Everything else about you can be bogus. But if you claim to be a homosexual and they persecute homosexuals in your country of origin, you get to stay.
Amazing.
That's how they run things in the European Union.
Well, I mean, hey, if I was from Africa and they were saying you can get deported unless you say you're gay, hint, hint, they'd be like, yeah, I'm gay. And then they walk in there and they're like, nope, I'm straight now. Can't deport me.
So the last thing we want to go into for European news is there's extensive new French sexual harassment laws. Men in France could be fined up to 350 euros, which is the equivalent of about $435 American, if they follow women in the street, whistle at them, make loud comments about their appearance, or ask for their phone numbers, according to a draft proposal to combat sexual contempt. The plans come from a parliamentary working group set up by France's Secretary of State for Equality, Marlene Schiappa. The politicians behind the proposal suggest that men who violate women's freedom of movement in public space should face a minimum fine of 90 euros for those who can pay on the spot. If the fine is delayed, it could reach 350 euros, the reports say. While the campaign against sexual harassment continues to gather pace across the globe, numerous French celebrities have railed against the hashtag MeToo movement. Catherine Deneuve, Brigitte Bardot, and Laetitia Costa are among those who do not consider themselves to be feminists and say that flirting with a woman is not an offense.
I can understand a little bit.
This is stuff that Macron has said that he is very adamant about doing.
It's disgusting. I was going to say, I can understand if you're, like, following a woman in the street and, like, making loud comments about her appearance. That's about as far as I would go in understanding.
But to fine people for it.
But to fine someone for asking for a woman's number, the interpretation of that can go so far. If you're at a bar and you're like drinking and you're dancing with someone and he asks for the number, is that sexual harassment? If they ask for you, is it sexual harassment? If a girl asks for a guy's number, what do you think? According to this, it doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, and this is likely to pass through the French legislature.
Which is really unfortunate. God, I'm never going to France.
Yeah. Let's move on now to Asia. We have one story out of Asia, which is rather humorous. China has banned hip-hop culture and tattoos from TV. The country's top media regulator, the State Department of Press, Publication, Radio, Film, and Television of the People's Republic of China, now specifically requires that programs should not feature actors with tattoos or depict hip-hop culture, subculture, and dispirited culture, quote, decadent culture. A new Chinese news outlet has reported. Gao Chengling, director of the administration's publicity department, outlined 4 don'ts rules on Friday. Absolutely do not use actors whose heart and morality are not aligned with the party and whose morality is not noble. Absolutely do not use actors who are tasteless, vulgar, and obscene. Absolutely do not use actors whose ideological levels is low and have no class. Absolutely do not use actors with stains, scandals, and problematic moral integrity.
Well, I guess that means no actors in the U.S. can do it.
So this stuff is like very extensive in like what they're banning, and it's pretty funny, and it's gonna have an impact actually on what like Hollywood does
because Hollywood, their biggest market outside the U.S. is China. That's why you see them putting Chinese people as like lead actors or secondary actors in a lot of their stuff,
like they
or
did
having
in,
movies take place in China,
like Star Wars.
Yeah, the newest Star Wars had some Chinese chick that sucked at acting.
Yeah. I don't watch those movies, but
I saw it and I felt like killing myself when I left.
Yeah, but none of those no movies with tattoos, no movies with hip hop at all. It's not allowed in China anymore.
Absolutely do not use actors whose ideological level is low and have no class.
It's so like subjective.
That is extreme. It's one thing to say no tattoos. You can tell who has tattoos or not. You can tell someone who has like stains and scandals. But I said it. I meant it. Literally, that's like 90% of Hollywood would not qualify to work in China if that was the case here.
Yeah. Let's move on now to our story out of Africa. We're going to Uganda.
Yeah, so the Ugandan president is actually defending Trump's shithole comments, or I should say alleged shithole comments.
Alleged shithole comments.
I don't even know if it's true or not. Anyways, Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni was giving a present to the East African Legislative Assembly in the Ugandan capital of Kampala. During the speech, he said, quote, "America has got one of the best presidents ever. I love Trump because he tells Africans frankly, the Africans need to solve their problems. The Africans are weak." Well, I mean, the White House continues to deny that Trump said the comments, but hey, the president of Uganda, president of a shithole country, is saying Trump's right. We are a shithole. It's our problem to deal with, not theirs.
This is such funny words just to say.
I kind of want to read it.
I love Trump because he tells Africans frankly, the Africans need to solve their problems. The Africans are weak.
You know that
Trump doesn't even say that.
No, you know the way meme that's coming out.
Yeah.
I kind of want to read this
knuckles.
with the Ugandan accent. So,
Sure.
First of all, you got to know the memes. Like, this is not the way. I will show you the way.
Yeah.
America's got one of the best presidents. I fucked it up already. I'm sorry. I can't do a Ugandan accent. Okay, like, America is... No, it keeps going like... It keeps going Indian.
I don't know. Can't expect us to have it.
The Africans need to solve their problems. The Africans are weak. I don't know. It didn't work out very well.
Let's go now to the Middle East. The first story we have is in regards to U.S. troops in Afghanistan.
Yeah, so U.S. may increase forces in Afghanistan to 15,000. So U.S. Army senior leadership at the Pentagon approved an increase of 1,000 additional troops on top of the 14,000 currently deployed in Afghanistan. The move is supposed to help train the Afghan forces to fight against the Taliban during the upcoming warfighting season. The troop increase has not been approved by Defense Secretary Mattis or President Trump yet. So, looks like we're going to be sending 1,000 more troops to Afghanistan. I am not happy about that.
Yeah, I'm not happy about that either.
But just, really nothing more you can say. Just know that
potentially
that's
it's coming.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next story. We got some information on the misdoings of Mossad, which is the Israeli Central Intelligence, if you don't know what it is. Thanks to the work of Israeli investigative journalist Ronen Bergman, who just published his book, quote, "Rise and Kill First, The Secret History of Israel's Targeted Killings," details such Israeli plans as the assassination of Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat, which includes a plot to blow up passenger planes and football stadiums. An excerpt from the book published in the New York Times detailed how the former Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon was defense minister. He ordered the Israeli armor to shoot down a passenger plane carrying hundreds of innocent people that Arafat was thought to be on. Although the plan was eventually called off, it was allegedly one of a list of plans to assassinate the Palestinian leader. There was also plain old mass murder. Another plan was to take out all of the Palestine Liberation Organization's leadership by setting up bombs inside a Beirut stadium where the group were planning to celebrate the anniversary of their first operation against Israel. According to the book, the Israelis also set up cars rigged with explosives outside the stadium, set to detonate minutes after the first explosion to target survivors as they were trying to escape. The operation was canceled at the last minute after a group of officers and the defense minister demanded it be called off. Quote, "You can't just kill a whole stadium," an officer remembered telling the Prime Minister Megaman Begin. "The whole world will be after us." In 1982, Prime Minister Ariel Sharon created a special task force named Saltfish to take out the PLO leader. He appointed special operations experts Mir Dagan, who later became the head of Mossad, and Rafi Eitan, who was the advisor to the Defense Ministry on counterterrorism matters. The group even debated killing Israeli journalists who were going to interview Arafat in Lebanon in 1982, with the consensus being that, yes, it was worth carrying out such an operation. However, these plans were called off as well. It wasn't just Arafat poison toothpaste that takes a month to end its target's life. Armed drones, exploding cell phones, spare tires with remote control bombs, assassinating enemy scientists, and discovering the secret lovers of Islamic holy men. These were the techniques Israel used to carry out at least 2,700 assassination operations in its 70 years of existence. While many failed, they add up to far more than any other Western country, the book says. He also claims that President George W. Bush adopted many Israeli tactics after the 9/11 terrorist attacks, and that President Barack Obama launched several hundred targeted killings.
Ooh, so that's not good.
No, and it's one of the reasons why, like on the show, we aren't big fans of the Israel. Because Mossad, it's just state-sponsored terrorism.
Mm-hmm.
How can we condemn terrorists for...
How can you condemn Iran for being state-sponsored terrorism when Israel conducts more assassinations than any other Western country?
And given the money that we give to Israel
every year... $5 billion a year.
$5 billion a year, we are sponsoring terrorism ourselves.
We're sponsoring the state sponsors of the terrorism. We're funding the people who...
So you get all these conservatives like, we need to support Israel. They're the only democracy in the Middle East. They're also a state sponsor of terrorism. And they have done it a lot. It's demonstrable. How can you defend these people? So yeah, I'm not a fan of Israel, and I'm definitely not a fan of what the Mossad has been up to.
Nope. So I guess we can move to the next story, though.
Yes.
So there has been a bombing in Kabul, Afghanistan. An ambulance packed with explosives detonated in Afghanistan's capital of Kabul on Saturday, killing 95 people and injuring over 150 more. According to police, the attackers used the ambulance to get past a security checkpoint before detonating at the next checkpoint. Many of the wounded taken to local hospitals are in critical condition, so that death toll may continue to rise. They said 4 suspects have been arrested in connection with the bombing. Zabihullah Mujahid, a Taliban spokesman, claimed responsibility for the bombing. It was the second successful Taliban attack in a week on various high-security targets in the city. Last Saturday, 6 Taliban militants attacked the Intercontinental Hotel, leaving 22 people dead, including 14 foreigners. The White House released a statement saying, quote, "The Taliban's cruelty will not prevail. The United States is committed to a secure Afghanistan that is free from terrorists who would target Americans, our allies, and anyone who does not share their wicked ideology. Now, all countries should take decisive action against the Taliban and the terrorist infrastructure that supports them." So, hey, we're sending 1,000 more troops to help prevent this stuff. There you go.
Yeah, very, very bad incident out there. The last thing that we have for the Middle East is the U.S. promises Turkey to stop arming the Kurds. The U.S. told Ankara it will not deliver any more weapons to the Syrian Kurdish YPG fighters, Turkish media report. The news comes as the Turkish Operation Olive Branch in northern Syria has entered its 8th day. Turkish presidential spokesman Ibrahim Kalin and U.S. National Secretary Advisor H.R. McMaster held a phone call on Friday evening, and Dula news agency said. McMaster confirms that Washington would no longer provide weapons to fighters of the Kurdish People's Protections Unit and the Democratic Union Party. The U.S. and Turkey have long argued over the status and future of Syria's Kurds, and Ankara has repeatedly slammed Washington for delivering military supplies to Kurds in Syria. According to a Hurriyet Daily News report from December 2017, President Trump approved arming the Syrian Kurds, including with anti-tank, anti-aircraft, and mortar weapons, due to be delivered in 2018. The U.S. authorities didn't comment on the report. So, we reported last week Operation Olive Branch into Afrin, Syria, in northern Syria, which is held by the Kurds. It's still ongoing for the most part. The Kurds have been able to hold off the Turkish offensive. It's funny. It's called Operation Olive Branch, which, olive branches are a symbol of peace, but actually in their culture, olive branches are used to beat people with. So, Turkey is just invading Syria to attack these Kurds, and I don't really like Turkey whatsoever. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of giving either of these people weapons.
Yeah.
But I don't want the fighting to continue. It's not good for the region.
No, definitely not. The last thing we need is for us to get involved either. I mean, I guess it's good that by arming the Kurds, we're not getting involved. But at the same time, we tend to be more on the side of the Kurds. I don't know, dude.
Yeah, it's a messy situation out there.
Yeah.
Let's go to North America and South America, where we have our final two stories.
Right. So the first story we have is out of Mexico. So Mexico has seen a record number of homicides in 2017. Mexico saw 25,339 homicide cases open in 2017, which is up 25% from 2016 and up 40% from 2013. It was the highest total on record dating back to 1997 when they started keeping track. They said the violence will actually be a major issue in this July's Mexican presidential election, where President Enrique Peña and his Industrial Revolution Party face tough competition. So, as we have said on this show multiple times, dating back to when we did the 2017 Global Conflicts Report, okay, Mexico ranks 4th in the world in deaths due to war. First is Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, 4th is Mexico, and 5th is Somalia. Mexico is the 4th most dangerous place in the world in terms of, war fighting that's going on.
And people want to keep our border open all this fighting to spill over here.
But they say we need to keep bringing unlimited amounts of these people here. No, Mexico's a shithole country. They've got tons of violence and death going on out there.
And
we don't need to bring those people here. I don't want that stuff coming here. And it does come here. Because they commit crimes at higher rates than our native-born citizens that are from here.
Yeah, you can just cite the recent study out of Arizona where it shows that they commit crimes at a rate of 153% the native population.
Right.
Liberals always like to argue, they commit less crime. It's not true whatsoever. Let's go to our last story, and it's a sad one out of Venezuela.
So the Venezuelan monthly minimum wage has dropped to under $1 per month. According to the website Dollar Today, which tracks the real value of the Venezuelan bolivar against the US dollar, the basic minimum wage of 248,000 bolivars is now worth just 95 cents, equivalent to a shocking 0.59 cents or $0 and 0.0059 cents an hour. Near the beginning of January, Venezuelan President Maduro announced good news regarding the protection and stability of the workers by raising the minimum wage by 40% to approximately $2 per month, while decrying an economic war led by the United States. The country has already defaulted on nearly $200 billion worth of debt, mainly owed to China and Russia. And here's the shocking statistic. The International Monetary Fund, or IMF, estimates that the Venezuelan inflation rate, which is the largest in the world, will reach 13,000% in 2018.
So yeah, it's an entirely failed state. It's only held together through state violence, It's pretty much a dictatorship under Maduro at this point. And it's funny because I've met a lot of leftists, communists.
Yeah.
In my time that point to Venezuela as a model for socialist states to follow, and it's completely collapsed, and a lot of people are gonna die. A lot of people already have died, and it's extremely bad.
Yeah, and if that inflation rate hits 13,000%, that just means it's only gonna get worse.
Yeah. So with that said, it's been a pretty long show, Bobby, but we got through everything. I think we covered everything pretty well.
I think we did. So I think what we need to do before we leave is just, going forward, looking ahead. If you're able to listen to this episode before Tuesday night, make sure to tune in to the President's State of the Union address.
Yes.
That's Tuesday night on the 30th. Other than that, I don't. Next week, however, we're also normally, we've been saying we like to start around 2 or 3. Next week we're going to be starting early because it is Super Bowl Sunday, and as much as we like to, talk about the NFL process and stuff, I'm not going to miss that. So we'll
Yeah.
be watching that. So we will be starting early so that we'll be done with plenty of time to spare before that game starts. So
Yeah.
yeah.
With that said, we don't have anything else. Thank you for listening to another episode of Trump Public Radio, and have a good one.
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.